At my husband Shin Pei-wen's funeral, a woman who was still quite attractive arrived. She introduced herself as Pei-wen's university classmate, and after offering her sincere condolences, she walked up to me, grasped my hand tightly, and with red-rimmed eyes told me, "You must be Lin Yuru, right? Pei-wen thought of you his entire life. He said the person he felt most sorry for in this world was you." In that moment, clutching the cold urn of ashes to my chest, I felt as if I had plunged into an icy abyss. For 30 years as husband and wife, sharing a bed for over 10,000 nights, he went to his grave believing my name was Lin Yuru, and Lin Yuru was my vivacious, flamboyant cousin, who had long since married and moved far away to Hong Kong. To tell this story, we must turn back the clock to the summer of 1978. The air was thick with the scent of earth and the relentless drone of cicadas. I was 18, fresh out of high school, and had returned to my village to work the land. Our Hongji production brigade was like a forgotten patch of earth, its stagnant waters undisturbed until the arrival of a group of educated youth. Among them, Shin Pei-wen was the most extraordinary. He was nothing like the other men in the village. His skin was a clean, sun-kissed wheat color, and even after working the fields, his fingernails were always spotless. His fingers were long and slender, not like ours, knobby, calloused, and rough. When he spoke, his voice was gentle and measured, carrying a scholarly air we'd never heard before, as if each word was steeped in the scent of ink. From the moment he arrived, he seemed to capture the very souls of all the unmarried girls. The bold ones would blush and lower their heads in his presence, while the shy ones would watch from a distance, scarcely daring to breathe. I was one of them, the most inconspicuous of all. My name is Lin Xiaomei, and like my name suggests, I was like the most common weed by the roadside, ordinary, resilient, but also humble. I didn't take after my mother. My features were plain, my skin somewhat dark. In a crowd, I was always the first to be overlooked. I was timid, and a sense of inferiority wound around my youth like a clinging vine. So, I only dared to watch him from behind the old locust tree on my way home from work, stealing glances at his straight back, watching how the setting sun cast a gentle, golden light upon him. My cousin, Lin Yuru, was different. Everyone said her name suited her perfectly, and she was like a piece of warm, translucent jade. She was the famous beauty of our entire region. Her skin was fair, her eyes large and bright, like pools of autumn water. Two thick, glossy black braids hung over her chest, swaying with every step she took, a sway that could find its way into any man's heart. She wasn't just beautiful, she was bold, with a personality as fiery as the summer sun. She dared to chase after Shin Pei-wen right in front of everyone, pestering him with questions about everything from the tall buildings in the city to the books he read. She always had an excuse. Today, a basket of eggs her family had saved. Tomorrow, a bowl of freshly made mung bean soup. She could spend half a day in his simple, ramshackle hut, her silvery laughter ringing out from within. As for me, I could only express my feelings in my own clumsy way, in the dim light of dawn. When no one was looking, I would sneak away the dirty clothes he'd changed out of and left in a basin. I'd take them to the riverbank, pounding them over and over with a washing bat until they were spotless, then quietly return them under cover of darkness. When I noticed his worn cloth shoes, the soles thin as paper, I spent several nights by the dim light of a kerosene lamp, painstakingly stitching thick, layered soles for him, the stitches as fine and dense as the thoughts in my heart. My mother, worried about my frail health, saved eggs to nourish me. I couldn't bear to eat a single one. Instead, I boiled them and, before daybreak, would gently place them on the sill of his old, broken window before running away as if I'd committed a crime. I thought he knew nothing, that all I had done would fade away, forgotten in some quiet corner. But one day, he intercepted me on my way home from the river. The sunset that evening was breathtaking, the sky ablaze with crimson. The fading light fell on him, gilding his silhouette in a soft, golden halo, so beautiful I couldn't bear to look directly. He was holding something, seeming a little ill at ease. 01. He pressed a small wooden box into my hand, the one I'd used to bring him eggs, carrying a faint scent of mothballs. "Miss Lin," he said, his voice soft as a feather, gently brushing against my heart, "your handiwork is excellent. The shoes are very comfortable, the stitching finer than anything from the co-op, and the eggs were delicious. Thank you." My cheeks burned as if on fire. I stared at the ground, clutching the box so tightly, unable to utter a single word. Seeing my nervousness, he gave a soft chuckle, a clear, warm sound. "Are you afraid of me?" I shook my head vehemently, then thought better of it and nodded quickly. The scent of soap from his clothes, mingled with a faint aroma of ink, seemed to rush straight into my nostrils. It made my head spin and my knees go weak, leaving me almost unable to stand. "Don't be afraid of me, Xiaomei." It was the first time he had called me by my name, not the vague Miss Lin that could refer to any girl from the Lin family, but the clear, distinct Xiaomei that belonged only to me. Those two syllables, spoken from his lips, seemed to carry a kind of magic that sent a tremor through my entire body. That night, I held the empty wooden box and couldn't sleep a wink. I even began to think that perhaps Shen Peiwen might have some feelings for me too. Maybe a girl as ordinary as me could also have the right to be graced by moonlight. But the very next day, all my illusions were shattered. I saw Lin Yuru, wearing a brand new sky blue floral dress she'd had someone buy for her from the county town, walking side by side with Shen Peiwen along the ridge between the fields, her face beaming like a flower. In her hand was the book Shen Peiwen was never without, asterisk the red and the black asterisk. She was habitually twisting the end of her glossy braid, tilting her head, saying something to him that I couldn't hear. Whatever it was, it made him smile warmly, his eyes holding a focus and tenderness I had never seen before. In that moment, the tiny, flickering flame that had just ignited in my heart was snuffed out with a pft, as if doused by a bucket of ice water. Of course, one was a cloud in the sky. The other was mud on the ground. How could someone as exceptional as Shen Peiwen, a city boy, ever look twice at a country bumpkin like me? I resigned myself to my fate. I locked away that flutter in my heart, along with the little wooden box that still smelled of mothballs, deep in the bottom of my trunk. At the end of 1977, the news that the National College entrance exams were being reinstated hit our remote, isolated red flag production brigade like a thunderclap. The whole brigade erupted, especially the educated youth who had been stranded working the land for years. It was as if they saw the first light of dawn for their return to the cities. They all went a bit mad, frantically rummaging through trunks and cupboards for their old textbooks. Knowledge, long since packed away and forgotten, became their only lifeline to change their destinies. Shen Peiwen was no exception. He shut himself away completely in that little ramshackle room of his, studying day and night. The kerosene lamp in his window often burned well past midnight. He was already slender, but during that time he grew visibly thinner by the day. The dark circles under his eyes deepened, and his cheekbones became more pronounced. It pained me to see it, but I didn't dare disturb him. All I could do was translate my unspoken concern into warm, hard-boiled eggs and bowls of hot ginger tea sweetened with brown sugar. I would still place them quietly on his windowsill before dawn, then slip away, imagining him finding something warm and sweet to comfort his stomach in his exhaustion. Lin Yuru also went there often, but her approach was completely different from mine. She was always loud and flamboyant, like a tireless social butterfly. One day, she'd drag Shen Peiwen off, saying they should take a walk by the river to get some air, insisting that a balance of work and rest was the key to efficiency. The next, she'd show up with a math problem, claiming she just couldn't figure it out and absolutely had to have him explain it. Her appearances always disrupted Shen Peiwen's study rhythm. Most of the time, Shen Peiwen would refuse, polite but firm. He'd frown, tap his forehead with his pen, and say, "Yuru, I need to study. I really don't have the time," or, "You should ask teacher Zhang about this problem. He explains it more clearly than I do." Lin Yuru never got upset when rejected. Instead, she'd just grin and say, "Brother Peiwen, you're just too much of a grind. Be careful you don't burn yourself out." And sure enough, the next time, she'd find some new excuse to show up. I watched it all, a confusing mix of feelings churning inside me. Part of me was relieved he hadn't accepted her kindness. Yet another part was jealous of how easily she could stand before him so openly, while I couldn't even muster the courage to get close. It wasn't until a week before the college entrance exams that Erjuzi, a simple and honest young man from our production team, sought me out at dusk. He mysteriously pulled a letter from his pocket and pressed it into my hand. The envelope was made of craft paper. No name was written on it, just a small, budding plum blossom sketched in the corner with a fountain pen. Erju scratched his head and grinned sheepishly. "Shen Jiqing asked me to give this to you," he said. "He told me to keep it quiet and hand it over discreetly." My heart leapt into my throat, pounding so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. Clutching the letter, my fingers trembled. I slipped away to the small grove behind the village where no one would see me. There was only the rustle of wind through the leaves. Leaning against a large tree, my hand shook as I tore open the envelope. On the page was Shen Peiwen's neat, strong handwriting. There weren't many words, but they made my face burn and my heart thunder in my ears. The letter read, "Xiaomei, thank you for all the eggs and brown sugar water you've sent. They were sweet, warming both my stomach and my heart. And thank you for mending my blue shirt. That little plum blossom embroidered in white thread on the left pocket. I love it. It's like you. Quiet and beautiful. Please forgive me for being so preoccupied lately. My mind has been completely focused on one thing. Once I pass the exam, I'll come back for you. We'll go to Shanghai and build a good life together. Please, wait for me. At the end of the letter, there was no full signature, only a single, bold and forceful character, Pei. I pressed the letter tightly to my chest. Sliding down against the tree trunk to sit on the ground, tears, unbidden, began to fall. Drop by drop onto the dry earth. So he knew everything. He knew about the plum blossom I'd secretly embroidered on his clothes, about the brown sugar water I delivered every night, and that the Miss Lin who brought things was me, Lin Xiaomei. This realization sent a wave of delirious joy through me, as if every flower in the world had bloomed for me in that very moment. For the next few days, I felt like I was walking on clouds, my whole being light as air. I'd catch myself laughing out loud while working, and even my mother said I seemed bewitched. I didn't even let Lin Yuru's snide remarks get to me. Seeing the smile in my eyes, she said with a sour tone, Xiaomei, look at you, so over the moon. Did you find a gold ingot? Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't be fooled by some city slicker's sweet talk. They're all smooth talkers, full of promises today, but once they're back in the city tomorrow, they'll forget all about you. Clutching the letter in my pocket, warmed to a feverish heat by my own body, I mustered my courage for the first time. I met her gaze and shot back, Sis, Peiwen isn't that kind of person. My voice was quiet, but firm. Lin Yuru was taken aback for a moment. Then, with a dismissive pout, she turned on her heel and sashayed away without another word. On the day of the college entrance exams, I went with many others from the village to see the candidates off. Shen Peiwen was wearing the blue shirt I had mended for him, the small white plum blossom on the chest standing out in the crowd. He spotted me instantly. Through the throng of people, he gave me a smile as bright as the morning sun. Then, he silently mouthed 2 words. I saw it perfectly clearly. What he said was, wait for me. My tears welled up and overflowed once more. This time, they were tears of joy. I stood rooted to the spot, nodding vigorously until his figure vanished at the end of the road. With Shen Peiwen gone, my heart seemed to have left with that bumpy tractor. The days stretched out, long and full of anticipation. I marked each passing day with a scratch on the wall, counting on my fingers when he might return. I wrapped that letter carefully in a clean handkerchief and kept it in the innermost pocket of my clothes, close to my heart, as if doing so could let me feel his presence and draw strength from it. Lin Yuru, however, acted as if nothing had happened. The moment Shen Peiwen left, she reverted to her old social butterfly self, dressing up as flamboyantly as ever, laughing and flirting with the young men in the village, basking in their adoration. Sometimes, she would deliberately flaunt herself in front of me, as if trying to gauge my reaction. Peiwen wrote to me, she said, chin held high, waving an envelope before my eyes. He says the university in Shanghai is so beautiful, with tall buildings everywhere, and they even have foreign films to watch. He also said he misses me terribly. A pang of unease flickered through me, but then I remembered Shen Peiwen's words, wait for me, and the sincere promise in that letter, and the feeling faded. I told myself that he was probably just keeping in touch with Yuru as a friend. After all, back in the village, she was the only one who could hold a conversation with him about culture. His letters to her were likely just a matter of courtesy. 02. A month later, the village loudspeaker crackled to life. The brigade leader's voice, hoarse with excitement, echoed across the entire Red Flag Brigade. Great news, tremendous news. Comrade Shen Peiwen, the educated youth from our brigade, has passed the exam. He's been accepted into Fudan University in Shanghai. The whole village was abuzz. For an educated youth to pass the university exams and return to the city was like a carp leaping over the Dragon Gate, a momentous occasion. The villagers gathered in front of the brigade headquarters, chattering excitedly, their faces beaming with shared pride. I hid at the back of the crowd, tears of joy streaming down my face, my hand pressed tightly over the letter tucked inside my blouse. I knew he would be back soon. He was coming back to keep his promise and take me away. That night, as I sat under the lamplight, running my fingers over the letter again and again, Lin Yuru pushed the door open and came in. She didn't wear her usual expression of mockery or smugness. Instead, she just sat quietly on the edge of my bed. For the first time ever, she offered no sarcastic remarks, only letting out a soft, melancholic sigh. Xiaomei, is there something going on between you and Peiwen that you're keeping from me? She kept her head down, a barely detectable note of hurt in her voice. My heart skipped a beat, and I instinctively covered my pocket with my hand. She noticed my furtive movement, looked up, and gave a bitter smile. Has he written to you too? I bit my lip, unsure whether to nod or shake my head. My silence spoke volumes. Lin Yuru's eyes instantly welled up with tears. I knew it, she said. That's just like him. He's kind to everyone, so gentle with everyone. That you can never tell what's genuine and what's just an act. She began twisting a lock of her hair around her finger, a nervous habit she had whenever she was lying or feeling guilty, a tell I failed to notice at the time. He wrote to me, saying he missed the stories from the red and the black that I told him, that I was the most unique and daring girl he'd ever met, but then he writes to you, promising to take you away. What does that even mean? Her voice trembled with tears. Thick with accusation and confusion, her question stopped me cold. Yes, what did it mean? Could he really be involved with both of us at the same time? The thought coiled around my heart like a venomous snake, chilling me to the bone. All my joy and anticipation were washed away in an instant by this sudden, dreadful doubt. Seeing my face pale and my body begin to tremble, Lin Yuru softened her tone at once. She reached out and took my hand. Her palm was ice cold. Shomei, don't overthink it. And please don't blame me. Peiwen is a good man. He probably just doesn't know how to choose. On one side, there's someone like me who can discuss books with him, and on the other, there's someone like you who's always been so quietly devoted. Perhaps he's simply lost himself. She paused, looking me straight in the eye with an expression of utmost sincerity. We're sisters, she said. I don't want a man to come between us and make us a spectacle for others. Here's what we'll do. She proposed, when he gets back, we'll ask him together, face to face, we'll give him a choice, whoever he picks, the other one steps aside gracefully and wishes them well. Okay, we'll compete fairly. Looking into her tear-filled, earnest eyes, and hearing her say we're sisters, my last line of defense crumbled. She was right, we were sisters, we shouldn't become enemies over a man, a fair competition, a clear answer. It seemed like the best solution, and so, almost against my own will. I nodded, looking back now. I was pathetically naive. I thought she was genuinely magnanimous, that she truly cared about our sisterly bond. I had no idea she had already laid a perfect trap in secret, and I was walking right into it, step by step. The day Shin Peiwen returned, the entire Red Flag Brigade was more festive than New Year's. He wore a brand new white shirt under a dark blue Dacron jacket, his hair neatly combed. He was still as slender as ever. But there was a new air of confidence and spirited ambition in his eyes, polished by his time at university. He had become our village's first golden phoenix to soar out into the world. Brigade officials and fellow villagers alike flocked to him, eager to curry favor and bask in the auspicious aura of the college student. The threshold of his small family courtyard was nearly worn down by the stream of visitors, yet he merely offered polite pleasantries, a courteous smile fixed on his face. While his eyes anxiously searched the bustling crowd for something, or someone, when his gaze finally swept past the sea of eager faces and landed on me, his eyes lit up instantly. That spark, like a meteor streaking across a dark night, struck my heart with perfect precision. Over the sea of bobbing heads, he gave me a knowing smile. My heart settled immediately. All my doubts and anxieties vanished into thin air with that one look. He remembered me. I was in his thoughts. But before I could even react, Lin Yuru, nimble as a swallow, darted ahead of me. She weaved through the crowd and planted herself right in front of him. Brother Peiwen, you're finally back. Congratulations, college graduate. Her voice was sweet and clear as a lark's, instantly capturing everyone's attention. Shin Peiwen's gaze was reluctantly pulled away from me and settled on her. He gave a polite nod. Thank you, Yuru. That day, he was dragged off by the village cadres and elders to drink. Celebrating his success in the imperial examinations, the revelry went on late into the night. I never got a chance to exchange a single word with him. Early the next morning, just as dawn was breaking, a knock sounded at our courtyard gate. When my mother opened it, it was Shin Peiwen. He was holding 2 bottles of liquor and a package of pastries, looking rather nervous. My mother was so flustered she could barely speak, thinking an honored guest had arrived, and hurriedly ushered him inside. My own heart was pounding like a drum, a mix of nerves and anticipation. He had come. He was here to keep his promise. Unfortunately, Lin Yuru had also shown up first thing in the morning. As if she had timed it perfectly, she was already sitting in our main room, cracking sunflower seeds and chatting idly with my mother, acting for all the world like she owned the place. When Shin Peiwen entered the room and saw Lin Yuru, he visibly faltered. His gaze flickered from the beaming Lin Yuru to me, standing awkwardly to the side, and a trace of hesitation, almost imperceptible, crossed his face. He rubbed his hands together, as if searching for the right words, looking even more nervous than he had yesterday in front of the whole village. Taking a deep breath, he addressed my parents. Uncle, Auntie, I've come today to make good on my promise. My mother and father exchanged a look, their faces full of confusion. My own heart, however, gave a violent thump, feeling as if it might leap right out of my chest. Shin Peiwen's gaze passed over Lin Yuru and settled gently on me. His eyes filled with tender affection and resolve. He said, "I must take responsibility for the promise I made to the Lin family's daughter. I want to take her to Shanghai and give her a home." Happiness struck me so suddenly that I was completely stunned. My mind went blank, with only the echo of his gentle words lingering. My parents were even more shocked, their mouths agape for what felt like an eternity. Just as I was about to nod, ready to embrace the happiest moment of my life, Lin Yuru sprang to her feet. Her face wore a perfectly measured look of bashful coyness, and she clutched the worn-out copy of the red and the black tightly in her hand, as if it were their token of love. "Brother Peiwen, I knew you wouldn't forget me," she said, taking a deliberate step forward. She positioned herself squarely between Shen Peiwen and me, like a solid wall, completely blocking his line of sight to me. Shen Peiwen's expression froze instantly. He looked at Lin Yuru, then at the book in her hand, then back at her flushed, triumphant face. The tenderness and resolve in his eyes gradually dissolved into confusion, bewilderment, and finally, deep distress. All eyes were fixed on him, my parents, the neighbors who had rushed over at the commotion, and my own heart, hanging in the air. Time seemed to stand still, the air so thick it was suffocating. I could feel it. Just one word from him, a simple explanation like "I wasn't talking about you," would be enough to pop this absurd bubble of misunderstanding. I stared at him, unblinking, waiting for him to speak. But he didn't. He fell silent, a long, drawn-out silence that cut through my hopes like a dull knife, sawing away at them inch by agonizing inch. Perhaps Lin Yuru's righteous, unflinching demeanor made him doubt himself. Perhaps he couldn't bear to embarrass her in front of everyone and ruin a young woman's reputation. Or perhaps, in his heart, his feelings for us sisters were already wavering, and Lin Yuru's bold move simply gave him the final nudge. He looked at Lin Yuru, then with great effort, his gaze shifted past her shoulder to meet mine. The look in his eyes was so complex I couldn't decipher it. There was apology, struggle, and a trace of a relief I couldn't comprehend. Finally, under the watchful eyes of everyone, he gave a slow, difficult nod and forced a single word from his throat. Yeah, that one word, that flimsy little syllable, sent me plummeting from the clouds and cast me into a living hell. I could hear the sound of my own heart shattering, clear as day, a messy, devastating crash. 03. The news spread through the whole village like wildfire, reaching every household in the Red Flag Brigade within a single day. Shen Peiwen, the golden phoenix who had flown the coop from our village, was going to marry Lin Yuru, a perfect match, they said, a talented scholar and a beautiful lady. Everyone repeated it, their voices thick with envy and well wishes. No one knew that I was the one who truly deserved those blessings. No one saw me shut away in my room, taking out that letter to read it over and over, each word stinging my eyes like a needle. I cried until I had no tears left, yet I still couldn't understand how things had come to this. The letter was clearly addressed to Shomei. He had clearly told me to wait for him, so why was it Lin Yuru standing by his side in the end? I became the laughingstock of the entire village. The girls who once envied me for being able to speak with Shen Peiwen now looked at me with nothing but contempt and mockery. People whispered behind my back, saying I was a toad lusting after a swan's flesh, that I should look in the mirror and see what I was really like, daring to compete with Lin Yuru for a man. Even uglier rumors claimed I was shameless, that I had long schemed to seduce my future cousin-in-law. The most cutting words, however, came from the person closest to me. My mother stormed into my room, pointing a finger in my face and shouting, "Lin Shomei, how did I give birth to such a disgraceful creature? Your cousin has always been so good to you, sharing everything she had since you were little, and you harbor such filthy thoughts, coveting her man. You've shamed our entire Lin family." I was left speechless, with no way to defend myself. I showed her the letter, but she snatched it right out of my hands and tore it to shreds. "How dare you forge evidence?" Shen Peiwen himself admitted he's going to marry Yuru. What more is there to say? I went looking for Shen Peiwen, hoping to confront him face to face, but it was as if he was deliberately avoiding me. When I went to his home, his family said he was out in the fields. When I waited for him in the fields, I was told he'd gone to the brigade headquarters. I couldn't even catch a glimpse of him. In the end, it was Lin Yuru who sought me out. She was all dolled up, wearing a brand new red outfit, her face glowing with unconcealed triumph. "Shomei, stop fighting it. Just accept your fate." She sat on the edge of my bed, admiring her freshly done nails. Her tone was light, but it cut like a poisoned dagger. "A man like Peiwen is an eagle soaring in the sky. He deserves a phoenix like me. As for you, you'd better just settle down and marry some farmer. That's where you belong. Why would you do this?" I asked her, my eyes red and my voice hoarse. "Why?" She laughed as if she'd just heard the funniest joke in the world, her whole body shaking with mirth. "Because I like him. From the very first day he arrived, I told myself that man would be mine, what I want, I take. She leaned in close, lowering her voice to a deliberate, cutting whisper. You're too weak, Lin Xiaomei. Happiness isn't something you wait for, it's something you seize. You think doing his laundry and bringing him eggs in silence will win him over. How naive. Opportunities are for those who dare to take them. Her words cut into my heart like a knife, over and over. She was right, I was too weak. So weak that on that day, in front of everyone, I couldn't even muster the courage to shout. That letter was meant for me. I was shackled by so-called sisterly bonds and my own pathetic insecurities. Forced to stand by and watch as she took everything that should have been mine. Shen Peiwen's departure date for Shanghai was finally set. The day before he left, he came to see me at last. We met under the old locust tree at the village entrance, the same tree that had witnessed our first conversation. The night was deep, and the moonlight was blotted out by dark clouds. He couldn't bring himself to look me in the eye. He just kept his head down, his hands rubbing together in a repetitive, mechanical motion. Over and over, he repeated the same phrase. I'm sorry, Xiaomei, I'm so sorry. Why? I asked him. My voice held no tears, only a dead, hollow rasp. He was silent for a long time, so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, he spoke with great difficulty. I wasn't thinking straight back then, Yuru. She had that book, and she stepped forward so confidently. I thought your kindness towards me was just pity and sympathy. The same way you were kind to all the other educated youths. He believed that only a love like Lin Yuru's, bold, passionate, and openly possessive, was real. My own silent, humble devotion was nothing more than pitiful sympathy in his eyes. What a laughable, tragic notion. It's over, he said finally. Xiaomei, forget about me, find a good man and marry him. Forget? How could I possibly forget? In my 18 years of barren, desolate existence, it was the first time my heart had stirred. The first time I had been held so preciously in someone's regard. That joy and hope had once blossomed in my life like a brilliant firework. Now the spectacle has ended, leaving behind nothing but cold ashes. I refuse to accept this. Why should my life be so easily ruined by them? Why should I pay the price for his cowardice and her selfishness? A surge of courage and obsession, unlike anything I'd ever felt before, began to grow like weeds in my heart, wild and unchecked. Shen Peiwen. Lin Yuru, did you think it was over? No, this is only the beginning. I'm going to Shanghai. I'm going to ask him face to face. I'm going to take back everything that should have been mine. With the 50 yuan my father had secretly slipped me, his life savings, I boarded the northbound green train to Shanghai. The carriage was packed, thick with the smell of sweat, smoke, and a complex mix of food. It was my first time traveling far from home, my first time seeing so many towering buildings. So many city folk dressed in fashionable clothes, speaking the Shanghainese dialect I couldn't understand. Shanghai was vast, so vast it filled me with panic. Finding one person was like looking for a needle in a haystack. I only knew he was at Fudan University, but had no idea where in the city that was. I had to ask directions block by block, trudging from one district to another, by day, to survive. I hauled bricks on construction sites like the men, or washed mountains of dishes in the back kitchens of small restaurants. At night, I'd curl up under a cold bridge, wrapping myself in a burlap sack for warmth. The wind off the river cut right through to my bones. 2 weeks later, I finally found out which university he attended. Standing at the imposing, grand entrance, my body utterly exhausted, I watched the cleanly dressed, vibrant students and was suddenly seized by a powerful wave of timidity. I was from a completely different world. Utterly out of place here. Just as I was hesitating about whether to go in, I saw him. He was walking side by side with Lin Yuru down a tree-lined campus path. The leaves of the plane trees flanking the walkway had turned yellow, and sunlight filtered through the gaps, casting dappled shadows. He wore a crisp white shirt, cradling a few books in his arms, and was leaning in, listening intently to whatever Lin Yuru was saying. She had a fashionable perm and wore a dress that shimmered in the sunlight, smiling like a sunflower in full bloom. Standing together, they looked so perfectly matched, like people who had stepped right out of a magazine. And there I was, in my patched-up old clothes, with dry, straw-like hair, covered in dust, the cloth shoes on my feet worn through at the toes. I felt like a lowly insect, peering from a distance at a brilliance that was never meant for me. In that moment, all my courage and resentment deflated like a punctured balloon, shattering into nothing. I turned to run, to flee this place that made me feel so ashamed of myself. But Shen Peiwen called out to me, Xiaomei. His voice was full of shock and disbelief, as if he'd seen a ghost. Lin Yuru saw me too. The smile vanished from her face in an instant, replaced by deep weariness and hostility. They took me to a small restaurant near the school. Shen Peiwen ordered me a steaming bowl of plain noodles. Watching me wolf them down, his eyes slowly grew red. What are you doing here? How have you been? I came to find you. I put down my chopsticks, cutting him off. I lifted my head and, mustering every ounce of strength I'd saved up over the past 2 weeks, looked him straight in the eye. Shen Peiwen, tell me, who do you really love? My blunt question caught him completely off guard, and his face flushed crimson. Under the table, Lin Yuru gave him a sharp kick and jumped in. Lin Xiaomei, have you no shame? You chased him all the way to Shanghai. Peiwen obviously loves me. We're getting our marriage license soon. I wasn't talking to you, I said, my gaze as cold and sharp as an ice pick as I stared at her. I was asking Shen Peiwen. Shen Peiwen's face flushed, then paled. He looked at my bruised hands and haggard face, then at the stylish, haughty Lin Yuru beside him, his eyes filled with nothing but anguish and torment. After a long, heavy silence, he finally spoke with great difficulty. Xiaomei, I've wronged you, but, as things stand now, there's no turning back for me. My family has already met Yuru, and they adore her. We can't go back. His words were like a dull knife, slowly and cruelly sawing into a heart that was already riddled with scars. So it wasn't about love, but about possibility, his future, his family, his reputation. All of it mattered more than a country girl like me. He chose the easier path. I laughed. And as I laughed, tears began to fall. Fine, just perfect. I stood up, wiping my mouth with my sleeve. Shen Peiwen, I wish you both a long life together, united in heart forever. With that, I walked away without looking back. I heard him screaming my name behind me, but I didn't turn. Lin Xiaomei, you can't look back now. To look back would be to fall into an abyss with no return. Behind me was a bottomless chasm. Ahead, perhaps, a sliver of hope. 04. I didn't go back to my hometown. I was too ashamed. That tiny village had no place for me anymore. I stayed in Shanghai, found a job at a textile mill, and became a factory girl. Life was hard. The workshop was perpetually filled with the smell of cotton fluff and machine oil, the roar of the machinery deafening. I worked in 3 shifts, and was often so exhausted that I'd fall asleep the moment my head hit the pillow back in the dormitory. Yet, there was a certain fullness to those days. At least I could support myself with my own 2 hands, no longer having to kowtow to anyone. The other girls at the factory said I was cold, quiet, like a block of ice that could never be warmed. They didn't know my heart had already died that autumn in Shanghai. I thought I would never have anything to do with the names Shen Peiwen and Lin Yuru ever again. I would vanish like a speck of dust into the vastness of Shanghai. Then, one day 2 years later, Lin Yuru showed up at my dormitory. She had grown terribly thin, her complexion sallow, her eyes sunken and hollow, all her former vivacity and pride gone. She wore an ill-fitting, shabby dress. When she saw me, her eyes darted away, filled with shame and utter despair. The moment she laid eyes on me, she dropped to her knees with a thud, startling me. Xiaomei, I beg you, please save Peiwen, save me too. I was stunned. From her broken sobs, I pieced together what had happened. It turned out her life with Shen Peiwen was far from easy. The Shen family were intellectuals. His parents were both middle school teachers, and they looked down on Lin Yuru from the very core of their being. An uneducated, coarse-mannered country girl, Lin Yuru couldn't speak Shanghainese, couldn't understand their family's jokes, and couldn't fit into their life. Shen Peiwen was caught in the middle, torn between his parents' disdain and his wife's grievances, his days a constant state of turmoil. The final straw that broke the camel's back was Lin Yuru's miscarriage. She said that when she was 3 months pregnant, she slipped and fell at home, and the baby was lost. The Shen parents, already deeply dissatisfied with her, now blamed her entirely for the tragedy, calling her a jinx and giving her the cold shoulder every single day. Shen Peiwen, too, grew increasingly distant and cold towards her after losing their first child, and the two of them argued constantly, with nowhere else to turn. Lin Yuru finally thought of me. Xiaomei, I know you look down on me, and I'm the one who wronged you, but we are sisters after all. Blood is thicker than water. You're the only one who can help me now. Peiwen still has feelings for you. I know it. When he was drunk, he kept calling out your name. She was sobbing uncontrollably, a complete mess. Please, go talk to him. Convince him not to divorce me, will you? For the sake of our sisterhood, help me. Seeing her in that state brought me no satisfaction whatsoever, only a profound sense of sorrow and absurdity. The 3 of us were all trapped in this ridiculous mistake woven from lies and cowardice, and none of us had found any happiness. In the end, I agreed, not for her sake, but for the boy, the one who, under the setting sun, had once tenderly told me, wait for me. I couldn't bear to watch his life sink into the mire of domestic squabbles. I arranged to meet Shen Peiwen by the Huangpu River. He looked even more haggard than the last time I saw him, with stubble shadowing his jaw and a dullness in his eyes. The river wind tousled his hair and reddened the rims of his eyes. Shome, I've wronged you. And I've wronged you, Ru. He clutched his hair in anguish. I've ruined everything. I was a coward from the start. I never loved her. I was just swept up by her passion and boldness. And I was too afraid to face the consequences of tarnishing your reputation. Every day I look at her, it's like a reminder of my own foolishness and weakness. I can't get past this guilt in my own heart. I miss you so much, Shome. In my dreams at night, I call out your name. He suddenly grabbed my hand. Scalding tears fell, one by one, onto the back of my hand, burning me with their heat. He said he had made up his mind. He was going to get a divorce, to cut all ties with Lin Yuru and put an end to this farcical mistake. He looked up at me, his eyes brimming with both hope and regret, and asked in a trembling voice, Shome, would you be willing to give me another chance? In that moment, with the river wind howling and the ship's whistle blaring, I had to admit it. My long frozen heart wavered in the face of those scalding tears. In the end, Shen Peiwen and I did get together. It was the second year after his divorce from Lin Yuru was finalized. We didn't have a wedding or receive any blessings. We simply went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a marriage certificate, then moved his meager belongings into my cramped dormitory room. It wasn't until the factory allocated us an apartment later that we finally had a real home. Our life together was plain, even somewhat dull. We were like two wounded animals licking each other's wounds. Carefully maintaining this hard-won relationship, we rarely spoke of the past. Everything concerning Lin Yuru, in particular, became an unspoken taboo between us. We also seldom used the word love. It felt too heavy, burdened with too much hurt and debt. We were more like companions seeking warmth from each other through the passing years, rather than passionate lovers. He was incredibly good to me. In a way that felt almost compensatory, he took on all the household chores, the laundry, the cooking, never letting me lift a finger. He handed over his entire salary card to me, keeping only a small allowance for himself. He remembered my cycle, brewing ginger and brown sugar tea for me in advance. The road home from my night shifts was dark, and he would wait for me at the mouth of the alley, holding a kerosene lamp. That soft, amber glow once made me believe I had finally found the stability I'd always yearned for. Everyone said my hardships were over, that I'd married a good man, cultured and devoted to his wife. For a time, I too believed we could live out our lives just like this, with mutual respect and quiet simplicity, and that time would slowly heal the wounds of the past. That day, while cleaning, I stumbled upon a locked metal box inside an old leather suitcase in his study. I recognized the box. It was the one he'd brought from the village to Shanghai, originally for holding books. The suitcase itself wasn't locked, but this small iron box was sealed tight, as if guided by some strange impulse. I remembered a tiny key he kept hidden inside a dictionary. I found the key and, with trembling hands, opened the box. Inside were no books, only a thick stack of letters. The envelopes had yellowed with age, their corners worn, yet the handwriting remained clear. The name on the recipient line was Lin Yuru, and the sender, signed at the bottom, was Peiwen. My heart skipped a beat. With trembling hands, I pulled out the topmost letter. My dearest Yuru, reading your words is like seeing your face. The Shanghai winter is damp and biting, a perfect mirror for the chill in my heart now. Only in parting do I understand the depth of my feelings. The way you looked when you told me about Julian Sorrel's ambition in The Red and the Black, the way you smiled slyly while twirling a lock of your hair, these images are with me every moment. One letter, two, three, a full 37 letters in all. They spanned from his first year at university right up to the eve of his divorce from Lin Yuru. Each letter brimmed with tender affection and profound longing. In them, he called her Ru, saying she was the only light in his life, the most vibrant color in his barren youth. He shared his experiences at school with her and poured out his frustrations about family pressures and his aching for her. So, it wasn't that he didn't love Lin Yuru. He had loved her desperately. The rift between them wasn't born from a lack of love, but from the grind of daily life, the weight of family expectations, and that unexpected miscarriage. So what am I to him? Am I just the consolation prize he settled for after weighing his options? Or am I merely a warm, safe harbor he retreated to after his grand escape from reality failed? Clutching those letters, I stormed into the bedroom like a madwoman and hurled them straight into his face as he was reading the newspaper. The paper scattered across the floor like a flock of mocking butterflies. Shen Peiwen, you tell me, what the hell is all this? My voice was shrill, a sound so foreign it startled even me. The moment he saw the letters, all color drained from his face. Panicking, he scrambled up from his chair, his words tumbling out in a frantic, incoherent rush. Shome, listen to me, Please, that's all in the past. It's completely over between us. It's you I love you now. He tried to grab my hand. Oh, really? I shook him off, sneering coldly, yet tears betrayed me and streamed down my face. Do you love me? Or do you just love how good I am to you? Do you love having me wait on you hand and foot like a live-in maid? So you never have to worry about a thing, you're only with me because I'm more low maintenance than Lin Yuru, more suitable for a practical life, isn't that right? Every word I uttered was like a knife, plunging straight into his heart, and simultaneously, driving even deeper into my own. He collapsed weakly onto his knees before me, clutching my legs, and wept like a child who knew he'd done wrong. I'm sorry, Shiomei, I'm so sorry. I was wrong, sorry again. Was that the only word in his vocabulary? Those 3 syllables were his coward's shield, and my most exquisite torture. That earth-shattering fight was a violent storm, obliterating the fragile balance between us. The thin veneer of mutual respect we'd papered over the cracks with was torn away, revealing the ugly, bloody truth beneath. We sank into a long, glacial cold war. We lived under the same roof as strangers. The air grew thick with suffocating silence. He tried to appease me, buying me new clothes, learning to cook my favorite dishes, presenting them to me with timid care. But the moment I saw his face, I'd remember every damning word from those letters, the passionate past he shared with Lin Yuru, a past I had no part in. My heart felt gnawed by a swarm of venomous insects, granting me no peace, day or night. I began suffering from relentless insomnia. My hair falling out in clumps, I grew increasingly bitter, sharp, and hypersensitive, a textbook harpy. We would erupt into monumental fights over the most trivial things. If he put a bowl in the wrong place, I'd scream at him hysterically. If he was 5 minutes late coming home, I'd interrogate him about who he'd been seeing. In every argument, he was always the first to back down. His eyes would redden, and in a voice bordering on pleading, he'd say to me, Shiomei, please don't be like this. Let's just live our lives in peace, alright? Let bygones be bygones. Looking at his pitiful state, I felt no sense of victory, only a deeper despair. I knew we could never go back. That thorn named Lin Yuru was now buried deep in my heart, impossible to remove. The slightest touch sent a searing pain through me. We were both being twisted and broken beyond recognition in this wrong marriage. Finally, after I once again hysterically swept the entire table of food he had painstakingly prepared for me onto the floor, he did not, as he always had before, silently kneel down to clean up the mess. He just stood there quietly, gazing at the wreckage on the floor and at my frenzied state for a long, long time. Gone from his eyes was the usual guilt and forbearance, replaced only by a profound, bottomless weariness and sorrow. Shiomei, he began, his voice weary and rasping like sandpaper. Let's get a divorce. I froze. All the madness and fury I felt vanished the instant I heard those words. This man I had loved and hated for half my life, the man who had single-handedly ruined my life, was finally letting go. I thought I would feel relief, even joy, but when he actually said those words, my heart felt instantly hollowed out, leaving nothing but a cold, howling wind. Are you going to find her? I mustered every ounce of strength to ask. I'd heard that Lin Yuru, not long after her own divorce, had married a businessman who moved to Hong Kong. She left Shanghai long ago and is doing quite well for herself. 05. Shen Peiwen slowly shook his head, a bitter smile touching his lips. No, he said, I've made enough mistakes in this lifetime. I don't want to make another one. I'm sorry to you, and I'm sorry to her. I've left everyone bruised and broken. I'll leave with nothing, he said, looking at me with a calm I'd never seen before. This house, all the savings, they're yours. I only ask one thing, please. Stop torturing yourself like this. Live a good life. He left cleanly, taking only a few changes of clothes and that iron box filled with his memories of Lin Yuru, just as quietly as he had first arrived in our village all those years ago. All that remained was an empty house and me, utterly devastated. I didn't go after him. I didn't try to make him stay. We were like two lines that were never meant to intersect, briefly crossing paths by some cruel twist of fate. Entangled for half a lifetime, we finally moved in our own directions, drifting further and further apart until there was nothing left between us. I saw Shen Peiwen again 5 years later. It was in a hospital bed. He had liver cancer, terminal. A colleague of his managed to get in touch with me through our old neighbor. I walked into the room, thick with the smell of disinfectant. He lay there, skin and bones, swallowed up by the oversized hospital gown. The refined, handsome man he once was had been completely worn away by illness, leaving only a sallow, gaunt face. When he saw me, a faint glimmer of light flickered in his clouded eyes. He tried to smile, but the movement tugged at a sore at the corner of his mouth, making him wince and suck in a sharp breath. I pulled a chair over, sat down beside his bed, and looked at him, unable to utter a single word. Do I still hate him? It seems not so much anymore. Time is the best healer. It has smoothed the sharpest edges, leaving only faint scars. Do I still love him? That, too, seems to have long been worn away by the endless arguments and torment. He doesn't have much time left. Neither of us brought up the rights and wrongs of the past. We just chatted about trivial, everyday things, like two old friends who hadn't seen each other in years. He said that after the divorce, he quit his job in Shanghai and went to teach at a school in a remote mountain area. He said the children there were simple and pure, with bright eyes that reminded him so much of how I used to be. He said he was sorry, that he owed me the most in this life, and that if there is a next life, he hopes to repay me even as an ox or a horse. I just listened quietly, without a word in response. As he lay dying, his consciousness was already fading. He clutched my hand tightly, his mouth slurring the same name over and over again. Yuru, Yuru, don't go. My heart died completely in that moment. So, in his final breath, the one his soul truly yearned for was still that woman, the one who gave him a passionate, all-consuming love, and also endless torment. And what am I, Lin Xiaomei? I was merely a compromise in his cowardly life, a mistaken substitute, a safe shell he used to escape reality. I arranged his funeral. Not many people came. Just a scattering of his old colleagues. That's when the woman who claimed to be his university classmate appeared. She was dressed impeccably, with a gentle and refined air about her, clearly a woman of good breeding. She took my hand and said with heartfelt sincerity, "You must be Lin Yuru, right? Peiwen talked about you every single day back in school, even at our class reunions later on. He would always bring you up, saying you were the person he felt most sorry for in his entire life." Clutching the cold urn in my arms, I listened to her words and suddenly laughed. I laughed until tears streamed down my face. So, to all his friends and classmates, the great love of his life, the woman who haunted his thoughts, had always been Lin Yuru. Our marriage, in their eyes, was nothing more than a lovesick man, abandoned by his first love, settling for her utterly ordinary cousin out of sheer helplessness. A union built entirely on duty, guilt, and compensation. He never explained to anyone who that letter was truly meant for all those years ago, nor did he ever clarify the mistaken beginning of his life. With a lifetime of silence and cowardice, he nailed me firmly to the pillar of shame as a mere replacement, and there I remained for 30 years, a love story wrongly written, a life spent in vain. From beginning to end, my life, Lin Xiaomei's life, has been nothing but a colossal joke. The end. Story 2. I was reborn on the day he confessed his love to me. The school bully suddenly stopped and stared at me with wide eyes. I immediately realized that my husband had been reborn with me as well. He let out a cold laugh and then turned to confess his love to the campus belle beside me. I rolled my eyes and turned to stare at the campus heartthrob whom I hadn't seen for 50 or 60 years. I really still prefer this type. 1. Before being reborn, I was still arguing with Xie Qinyuan. At his 80th birthday banquet, our granddaughter found a group photo from my old wallet. Comparing it with him, she said, "Grandpa, you were so gentle when you were young." I didn't say anything, and Xie Qinyuan smiled. The person in the photo wasn't him at all. We started arguing as soon as we were alone at night. "Jiang Yujing, if you don't want to live together, then don't. Fine, we'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. Whoever doesn't go this time is a dog." Such conversations had occurred hundreds of times during the duration of our marriage as an old couple, only this time was different. In the middle of the night, I suddenly felt like I couldn't breathe. Before I could wake Xie Qinyuan up, I passed out. When I opened my eyes again, the young Xie Qinyuan was standing right in front of me. The surrounding were my high school classmates, having a party in a KTV. There was also a cake on the table. What was going on? Xie Qinyuan stopped halfway through his words, and his expression suddenly changed. He stared at me in disbelief. With just one look, we both understood that we had been reborn together. This was the day when he confessed his love to me at the age of 17. Coincidentally, just before this, I had been brutally rejected by my crush. On a whim, I agreed to Xie Qinyuan's confession and even forcefully kissed him. And it was right in front of my crush. It was a long time later that I found out that this day was actually when Xie Qinyuan lost a game of truth or dare. It was understandable. After all, I was ordinary in high school, with big black-rimmed glasses, thick bangs, and braces. I only wore my school uniform jacket or short sleeves. Although Xie Qinyuan fooled around all day and didn't study well, he was good-looking and tall, which made him popular with girls. He was a well-known figure in school. It would be unreasonable if he really liked me. Sure enough, this guy closed his mouth, let out a cold laugh, and then turned to confess his love to the campus belle sitting next to me. I also let out a cold laugh, taking advantage of holding a wine glass. I carefully peeked at today's birthday boy, my childhood friend, Nan Bayou, whom I had been secretly in love with for 10 years. Great, now we really can't stay together. It's even better this way. Saving us the trouble of going to the Civil Affairs Bureau, it must be that the heavens pitted us, a pair of quarrelsome old couple, and gave us a chance to find new good partners. Right now, we should still focus on our studies, the campus belle said with a bashful look and lowered her head. But if it's you, Xia, I think we can give it a try first. Xia Qingyuan was taken aback and exchanged a glance with me. I saw him smile and say to the campus belle, okay, fine, great, couldn't be better. I gritted my teeth in anger because Xia Qingyuan had taken the lead before me. I secretly clenched my fists and decided to chase after Nan Bayou. The next day, the school officially started the summer vacation. I invited Nan Bayou 3 times, but he refused me each time. The 4th time, the more I thought about it while lying in bed, the angrier I got. In the middle of the night, I climbed over to his house next door and knocked on his window. He wasn't asleep either. Seeing that I wouldn't give up until I achieved my goal, he could only open the window with a helpless expression. I pushed aside the vines and stuck my face in. Nan Bayou, you can't stop playing with me just because I like you. He was drinking water and choked on my words. He turned his head awkwardly and tried to defend himself. I really need to do some tutoring. I don't have time, but I asked your younger brother, and he said you don't have any classes on Sundays. I pouted and said sadly, are you going to break off our friendship? Nan Bayou's eyes flickered slightly. He lowered his head and looked at me quietly for a while. I felt itchy as the green leaves rubbed against my neck. After a long while, he compromised. Okay, see you tomorrow. I immediately turned from sad to happy and cheered, yay. Then I'll wait for you at the entrance of the community at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. This date with Nan Bayou was very important to me. After graduating from high school, his family moved away, and I lost all contact with him. I couldn't even get any news about him. Nan Bayou was like a dream from my youth, a regretful yet beautiful and illusory memory. I took off my braces and glasses and started learning how to dress myself up. When I was bathed in the praise of those around me, I often thought of him. He had never seen me when I was beautiful. The next day, I carefully got myself ready. I put on the little white dress I had prepared long ago and sprayed on a light white tea perfume. When I saw Nan Bayou approaching from a distance, I stood beside the fountain, letting the sunlight shine on the more beautiful side of my face. The wind also blew just right. I tucked the hair beside my ear behind it and smiled at him with my lips pursed. I was satisfied to see the word amazed in his eyes. However, my good mood only lasted until we reached the entrance of the shopping mall. After discovering Xia Qingyuan and the campus belle, I came to an abrupt stop and tried to drag Nan Bayou away, but it was still a step too late. Yujing, Bayou, what a coincidence. The campus belle smiled and came over. I couldn't believe it when I saw you just now, Yujing. You look really beautiful today. I forced a smile. Haha, no, not really. Well, if there's nothing else, the campus belle grabbed my sleeve. Since we've met, let's have lunch together. Li Yanran winked at me. I realized that she might have had a quarrel with Xia Qingyuan and didn't want to be alone with him. Sister, your smooth road is blocked, but don't ruin my single plank bridge. I looked at Nan Bayou, and he said it was okay. I glanced at Xia Qingyuan, and he said he would listen to Li Yanran. What else could I do? I had to compromise. We met 4 or 5 more good classmates in the shopping mall. In the end, our beautiful date for 2 turned into a big gathering of classmates. However, things could always get worse, not just bad. In the elevator, did you take your medicine? Xia Qingyuan glanced at my neck. I was bitten by a bug among the vines yesterday, and there were hives on it. I was speechless. Of course I did. Do I look like an idiot? It's hard to say. You once, I coughed loudly, and Xia Qingyuan shut up. At the dining table, I was quick-handed and scalded a pair of bowls and chopsticks for Xia Qingyuan. Everyone around fell silent at the same time. I calmly scalded the bowls and chopsticks of the others as well. Xia Qingyuan peeled a shrimp and, by accident, threw it into my bowl. He paused for a moment and then calmly picked it back up. After walking out of the restaurant, Xia Qingyuan suddenly rummaged through his pockets. Hiss. Wife, have you seen my phone? I immediately rummaged through my bag as well. It's not with me. Everyone stopped in their tracks. I lowered my head inch by inch, wishing I could crawl into the ground in front of me. Damn it, if I could do it all over again, I would rather die than submit. 2. The hateful Xia Qingyuan held back his laughter and ruffled my hair. Everyone has gone downstairs. What are you still squatting for? Oh, these tiles are really exquisitely laid, fitting together perfectly. The smooth floor reflected my blushing face. 3. Yujing, are you really secretly married to the handsome Xia? I spat out a mouthful of salt soda. A random passerby suddenly popped up on my left and enthusiastically added, no, do those who spread rumors have any common sense? They're not even old enough to get married legally yet. I wiped my mouth and nodded in great agreement. This guy continued. They're clearly betrothed since childhood. Stop. A passerby passionately joined in. No. What I heard was that she's a child bride. I roared. I said stop. After a summer vacation of fermentation, the gossip about us two had evolved to an unbearable degree, but it didn't matter. We would deal with whatever came our way. Xie Qingyuan and I were determined to go our separate ways for the rest of our lives. I found a small megaphone beside the track. I do have a deep relationship with Xie Qingyuan. Oh. I smiled enigmatically and continued. There was almost one less person in my household registration book because of him. We are sworn enemies. Everyone was stunned. So, all the rumored ambiguous stories about me and him that you've heard are false. I didn't tell all lies. Back then, Xie Qingyuan had an accident on the way to pick me up from work. I was in a relatively good condition, but Xie Qingyuan fainted on the spot. After the examination, the doctor showed me the report and told me not to worry, that the baby was fine. What baby? Where did the baby come from? What did he mean that I almost lost both my life and the baby's? Fortunately, your husband reacted in time and turned the steering wheel towards you. Otherwise, it would have been hard to say, the doctor said. However, Xie Qingyuan suffered a craniocerebral injury and was left with the problem of his arm occasionally trembling. It had to be his hand, and he was a painter. That night, I stayed by his hospital bed and called my parents, saying that I might get married. Over the years, I have been very grateful to him, but there was only family affection between us, not love, because we both had other people in our hearts. We were together just because of the right timing. Two puppies soaked in the rain decided to walk together. One day, a friend of Xie Qinyuan's asked me to pick him up. He was drunk for some unknown reason. He hugged me and mistook me for his friend. I really like her so much. This was the first time I heard him speak in such a regretful and aggrieved tone. I couldn't help but ask, who, in front of everyone. Xie Qingyuan opened his eyes and looked at me. He pressed his forehead against mine and smiled. It's definitely not you. There was a portrait in the safe in his study. I lifted the cover and saw half of it. The girl in the painting was wearing a princess dress with a huge skirt. I quietly put the cover back down. I had never worn such a dress. Not even a similar wedding dress, because we only got the marriage certificate and didn't have a wedding. No matter how grudging I was about something, as long as there was enough time, there would always come a day when I would let it go. When I was young and inexperienced, I also thought that a marriage without love was pitiful. However, in the mundane world, there aren't that many earth-shattering love stories. In the bits and pieces of daily life with trivial matters like firewood, rice, oil, and salt, it turned out that family affection was more important. It was enough that we were important to each other. As for whether we were the most important, let's stop there. I had always wondered who the person he liked was, and now I could more or less guess. It should be Li Yanran. I even guessed that it was because the lights in the KTV were too dim, and Li Yanran and I were sitting too close together. He mistook me for her for a moment and ended up making the wrong choice for a lifetime. Xie Qingyuan was proud yet timid. I'm afraid that the moment he confessed during the truth or dare game had already used up all his courage. How could he have the strength to correct his mistake? Xie Qingyuan came to the class with a stern face and asked me to meet him in the art room after school. After spending the whole morning explaining to everyone in detail to deepen the impression that Xie Qingyuan and I were at odds, when I returned to my seat, someone actually asked me if I was going to have a fight and if I needed any help. I was quite pleased. You said you would help me chase Li Yanran. How are you going to do it? You also said you would help me chase Nan Baiyu. Do you have any ideas? We saw contempt in each other's eyes. Neither of us had any experience in chasing someone, so we had to turn to Baidu for help. It says here that the first step in pursuing someone is to express your feelings to the other person, and the most romantic and innocent way to confess is writing a love letter. Xie Qingyuan was puzzled. We've already confessed. Do we still need to write a love letter? I was confused. Well, how about we write one? Following the problem-solving steps shouldn't be wrong. So, we sat facing a piece of white paper for half an hour each. Xie Qingyuan threw the paper away. TSK, I can't write it. It's too mushy. I was interrupted from my meditation and looked up. The transparent dust in the art room was floating and drifting in the evening sun. Xie Qingyuan twirled a pen in one hand and rubbed the back of his neck with the other hand freely. There was a circle of fine fluff on his neck, making him look warm and bright. My partner, my old friend. I sincerely hoped that he would get what he wanted, I said, Xie Yuan. We've been given a second chance, be brave this time. He looked up, and his amber eyes stared straight at me. I will. Then, he thought for a moment and started writing smoothly. As for me, I still had no clue. Looking at the words on his paper from a distance, I suddenly felt a little annoyed. Yujing, my deskmate, Li Yanran, poked me. I raised my head from the sea of problems. What's up? Humph. I don't know where Xie Yuan copied a love letter from. It doesn't make any sense and has nothing to do with me at all. Look, I took it with confusion. Aren't love letters all about similar sweet words? What kind of writing style is it when it doesn't make any sense? After reading just a few sentences, my brain completely froze. What are you looking at? Your face is so red. Xie Yuan suddenly appeared and asked me softly above my head. I'm reading a porn book. Don't bother me. I clumsily covered the table with a book. Feeling that my ears were starting to get hot, that's right, Xie Yuan must have copied it from somewhere else. Don't be too narcissistic. He wrote like this, I like you, not just in the time that hasn't happened yet, not just in the time when you're looking at someone else, not just at this moment, not just in the future. I have so many words that I haven't said yet. I really want to spend another lifetime telling you, while checking your white hair and wrinkles. I want to tell you frankly and passionately, however, I'm a coward and only dare to think secretly in places where you can't see. Xie Yuan knocked on my desk and leaned close to my ear, which was heating up, and said, what's the second step in pursuing someone again? 5. A passerby intervened and patted Xie Yuan on the shoulder. Student Xie, school bullying is a very despicable behavior. Then, Xie Yuan was chased out with a look of disbelief on his face. 6. Li Yanran had a knowing smile on her face beside me. I covered my ears and thought calmly that something seemed wrong. I couldn't figure it out. I might as well do some exercises first. Conic sections were still easy to understand. This so-called time travel couldn't possibly break my myth of being the top student in high school for 3 consecutive years. Yes, I had a huge sense of pride. Xie Yuan asked me to tutor him in his studies. With him, I now had 3 apprentices. The other 2 were Li Yanran and the class monitor sitting behind me. The second step in pursuing someone was to create close contact. Every Saturday and Sunday, the 4 of us, master and apprentices, would find a coffee shop in the city center and have tutoring sessions away from others. While the class monitor was going to the restroom, I casually asked Xie Yuan, did you really write that love letter yourself? Xie Yuan turned his head awkwardly. Well, I borrowed a complete collection of love letters from the library and just randomly flipped to a page and copied it. Thud, Li Yanran kicked Xie Yuan hard under the table. I turned my head to the side and pretended not to notice. I lowered my head and said, oh, in a flat tone. Which high school library would have a complete collection of love letters? The class monitor sat down and said, the autumn sports meeting will be held in a few days, Yanran. We might still have to trouble you to hold the class sign. In a flash, the portrait in Xie Yuan's safe suddenly flashed through my mind. I remembered, that princess dress was the one Li Yanran wore at this autumn sports meeting. Xie Yuan, without a care for his own safety, handed over the test paper. I think I can score over 100 this time. I glanced at it. What kind of fancy font is this? Write it in Hengshui style for me. Rewrite it. Xie Yuan followed me all the way. Seeing that we were almost at the community, I couldn't help but shoo him away. Why haven't you gone back yet? He looked upright. I'm on the way. Sometimes I really want to open his head and see what's inside. Don't I know where his home is? Suddenly, his face changed. I followed his gaze and saw Nanbaiyu. You're in a hurry to get rid of me so you can go find Nanbaiyu. I won't stop you, Xie Yuan. The number 1 in not learning from his mistakes, me. The number 1 in handling arrogance. I took a few steps back and watched as his face gradually turned sour. Do you want me to go to him? I'll listen to you. Then, yes or no? Xie Yuan gritted his teeth. No. I covered his mouth. Don't say it. I'm just afraid you don't even understand it yourself. The best way to deal with someone who is stubborn and won't admit the truth is not to force him to say it, but to make him hold it back when he finally makes up his mind. Xie Yuan successfully walked me to my doorstep. After saying goodbye, he finally couldn't help but ask, you said you'd listen to me. Does that mean you won't chase Nanbaiyu anymore? I looked at his back that was trying to hide his true feelings with candor. Yeah, I won't chase him for now. If I myself am still wavering, I will never do the thing of pestering others. I thought that the position of Nanbaiyu in my heart, after 50 years of self-hypnosis like a fitted peak, had long become an unbreakable white moonlight. Unexpectedly, it was so easily shaken by just a few words from a coward. 7. so why were you suddenly angry yesterday? I motioned for Xie Qingyuan to lean in and whispered word by word, I won't say. This is called fighting violence with violence. It's definitely not because I'm stubborn too. 8. Yenran. The person who makes clothes is in the office and is asking you to go and get measured. Li Yenran was lying on the desk, writing her homework furiously. She freed one hand and patted me. Yujing, your figure is similar to mine. Go and get measured for me. I didn't suspect anything and got up and went. Nan Baiyu was also in the office getting measured, following the tailor's instructions one by one. He spread his arms and stood still. His jade-like profile and elegant figure made him look extremely obedient. When he cast his gaze towards me, I just nodded as a greeting. Walked to the side and waited, not saying anything more. He was taken aback and silently retracted his gaze. An inexplicably awkward atmosphere spread in the office. I silently stared at the star can on the office desk, lost in thought. Because we lived close by and were of similar age, I had been acquainted with Nan Baiyu since I was still wetting the bed. My parents were very busy with work and often left me alone at home. I often carried a small stool and knocked on his window. He was a person very different from me and Xie Qingyuan. Even when we were in our old age, we were still childish and impulsive. Nan Baiyu, on the other hand, had been quiet and reliable since childhood. I liked the faint scent of medicine on him, the gentle voice when he read me bedtime stories, and the gentle gaze I would meet when I turned around and saw him looking at me. Origami stars were popular in our primary school class. I clumsily folded my first star, although it was crooked. I wanted to give it to Nan Baiyu, but his desk was already piled high with many delicate and colorful little stars given by others. I retracted my hand. At that time, I thought that everyone liked him, and I didn't want to be one of the many. A week later, my parents went on a business trip and left me alone at home for the night. The thunder that was so close woke me up. Outside the window, it was as dark as ink. The basin overturned, and the lightning illuminated this empty and silent home and me, who was holding the quilt and didn't dare to make a sound. I reached out to touch the light switch, but there was a power outage. Nan Baiyu knocked on my door at this time, holding a small umbrella and earmuffs, to coax me to sleep. When I was sound asleep, he whispered, "Wait for me a moment." I fought off my sleepiness and waited for him, half asleep and half awake. I saw Nan Baiyu place a glass jar filled with paper stars on my bedside. You looked at those stars for a long time that day. You should really like them. The small lights around the jar flickered, and it was as if the stars were looking at me. So many people looked at it, but it was looking at me alone. I hugged it and slipped into the quilt. Don't be afraid, he stroked my head. The stars will always be by your side. I don't know when it started, but Nan Baiyu gradually distanced himself from me. I no longer saw him every time I turned around. And I no longer waited for the person who would come and coax me to sleep in the pouring rain on a stormy night. Out of an eagerness to hold on to him, I confessed my love to him and was rejected. Later, I got together with Xie Qingyuan, and I drifted further and further away from Nan Baiyu. He didn't say goodbye to me on the day he moved. It rained all night. When I opened the window the next morning, I found a paper star on the windowsill that had been soaked by the rain, and ink marks could be seen inside. I carefully unfolded it and saw a sentence written on it. Let's forget each other. 9. I walked out of the office and found Nan Baiyu waiting for me outside. Yujing, recently you. He pursed his lips and didn't say anything more. I knew he wanted to ask why I had been so cold to him recently. I asked him in return, do you consider me a friend? If so, why did you leave without saying goodbye and cut off all contact? I didn't say anything more either. Jiang Yujing at the age of 18 had been eager to know the answer to this question, but Jiang Yujing at the age of 80 had already let it go. Perhaps I just wanted to meet him again and know that he was all right. That's all. He lowered his eyes. I'm sorry. I just didn't want to trouble you. As a friend, I didn't do a good job in many aspects. It doesn't matter. I heard Jiang Yujing at the age of 18 say, I accept your apology. Strangely, in my memory, it was Xie Qingyuan who held the flag for our class this time. Humph. Surely Xie Qingyuan liked Li Yenran at that time and used some means to replace Nan Baiyu. With their two ostentatious faces standing in our class, one wearing a princess dress and the other wearing a knight's uniform, at first glance, they looked like a newlywed couple and attracted a lot of attention. I stood at the back of the line and could occasionally hear some words of admiration from the crowd. They're so well matched. Xie Qingyuan looked back from a distance and raised his eyebrows at me proudly, with the words written all over his face. Your boyfriend is handsome, right, Sai, who wasn't a playboy who dreamed of having the best of both worlds when they were young. My hands itch. I have to go and beat him up right now. In front of many classmates, I completed this act of campus violence, and Xie Qingyuan dared not speak out in anger. On the day of the autumn sports meeting, Li Yanran slipped away. And I was clearly set up, wearing a white and fluffy princess dress that I hadn't worn in 2 lifetimes. I stood at the entrance of the playground waiting for Nan Baiyu. Just as our class was about to enter the field, a figure came running from afar. The knight's uniform outlined his waist. The badge on his shoulder was not as dazzling as his shining eyes. He ran all the way to me, bent over, and took a breath. Xie Qingyuan raised his head and held out his hand to me. Let's go. Everyone is waiting for us. I walked in a daze for a while, and it was the class monitor who couldn't stand it anymore. Bro, you were invited to hold the flag, not to hold the bride's hand and attend a wedding. We immediately pulled our hands apart at the same time and stood in formation. 1 meter apart. Why is it you again? Who else did you expect? I asked the class monitor why he invited him to hold the flag. Well, Nan Baiyu had something urgent to attend to at the last minute, and there was only this guy wandering around nearby. He also asked me if I needed help, so I let him do it. I said sarcastically, while classmate Xia is as warm-hearted as ever. No, Xie Qingyuan interrupted, this time. I just wanted to stand by your side. Today's sunlight was too intense. Making people blush, vaguely, some words came from the crowd. They're so well matched, right? I've been shipping this love-hate couple for a long time. Come on, I'll add you to the group. I twitched the corners of my mouth. Really, would you say anyone is well matched with Xie Qingyuan even if there was a dog standing next to him? 10. I was correcting Xie Qingyuan's composition when he suddenly knocked on my head. TSK. Sit up straight when you write. Xie Qingyuan frowned and lifted my chin that was almost touching the paper. I suspect that your later cervical spondylosis is related to your bad habits at this time. Oh no, he's taken the upper hand. I mumbled, wordy old man. Xie Qingyuan's hand that was about to let go paused. He pinched my chin and shook it from side to side. Who's the wordy old man? There's only the most dashing old man here. I forced a smile. Okay, old man. 3 days later. Xie Qingyuan mysteriously asked me to meet him at the courier station. When I saw the standard shopping mall massage chair, my eyes went dark. Dang 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 dang. Early detection, early treatment. I specially chose the one with the most complete functions for you. What do you think? Do you like it? Where am I going to put it? Bro, put it in the dormitory. Later, I'll deliver it to your door. I pasted your payment code on it. When you're not using it, you can even let it earn some pocket money. Really? Will anyone actually use it? No. Who's short of this little pocket money? There are too many things to snark about. Don't you like it? I retracted my wandering gaze and nodded. I like it. Xie Qingyuan smiled proudly and ticked it off in his plan book. The third step in pursuing someone, give the other person the most thoughtful gift. Fortunately, as a first-class high school, the dormitory has plenty of space, otherwise it really wouldn't be able to handle it. Wow, so comfortable. How can you do this? You've already sat on it twice. Get up quickly. There are still people waiting in line. I received an Alipay notification of a payment late at night. I opened my eyes and silently wondered if opening a massage parlor in a national key high school could become a popular business opportunity. Xie Qingyuan, as expected of you. This was a free evening self-study session. I propped my head up and looked at Li Yanran, who took out her wrong question notebook and found something to do for herself. You're being Xie Qingyuan's wingman. Do you really not like him at all? Li Yanran put down the notebook and thought for a while. Do you think I'm pretty? She turned her face directly towards me. Her skin was as smooth as fat, and her features were delicate. I nodded affirmatively. Li Yanran pursed her lips and smiled. I don't have a talent for studying. My grades aren't as good as yours. And I'm not an art student like Xie Qingyuan. I really don't have the energy for a relationship. I want to stay beautiful all the time, and I also want a future that is calm and not controlled by my looks. Besides, Li Yanran winked playfully, not everyone treasures Xie Qingyuan as much as you do. I silently covered my face, vaguely. I remembered that someone in the class group said something about the campus belle from back then a long time after graduation. An insider said that they saw her in Los Angeles with a yacht and that she had even kept several foreign handsome guys whose looks were comparable to Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm envious. The back door was pushed open a crack. A student cadre who was on good terms with the class monitor whispered, "The school is going to search the dormitories." Before I could react, the class monitor behind me looked up in shocked. Damn. What about my popcorn machine? Passerby A. My mahjong table. Passerby B. My firework tube. It seems that everyone has been going really wild in private. My massage chair is completely insignificant now. The problem is, I don't remember there being a dormitory inspection at all. Just as I was about to hurry and join the team going back to the dormitory to hide the evidence, I glanced at the date on the blackboard, and my scalp went numb. No wonder I hadn't seen Xie Qingyuan around me all day. How could I have forgotten this day? I opened my phone and saw that Xie Qingyuan had called me 9 times and sent more than a dozen messages an hour ago. The last message was, "I still don't dare to go alone." I took a deep breath and quickly grabbed a roommate. "I have something urgent and can't go back. Can you?" My roommate's eyes were determined. "Leave the massage chair to me." While calling Xie Qingyuan, I took the stairs 2 or 3 steps at a time. 11. At the company's 10th anniversary celebration, the reporter asked Xie Qingyuan, who was the boss, a few entertainment questions backstage. One of them was, if you could go back in time, what would be the thing you most wanted to do? The people around were all guessing whether it would be to buy a house in the capital or to make a fortune by shorting stocks before the bubble economy burst. After thinking about it, he gave an answer, "I want to become a brave person." Everyone laughed, and the reporter praised him for being cute. But I couldn't laugh. Xie Qingyuan's father died when he was 17. He didn't go to see him for the last time. Instead, he just sat in a bridge cave not far from the hospital in a daze. Out of humanitarianism, I accompanied him and endured the cold wind for an hour until the city lights went out. In the dark, he asked me very softly, "Is a child a bond between parents, or is it a chain?" His parents had a marriage without love, and each of them had their own family outside. Xie Qingyuan was an unwanted child, born at the center of interests and in the blind spot of love, so, he understood at a very young age that love was the thing in this world that was closest to a lie. It had to be exchanged for with tears and disproved with wounds. When he was a child, his grandfather told him the story of Ma Liang and his magic brush. Little Xie Qingyuan's eyes sparkled, and he fell in love with painting just like that. 2 years later, a master praised his sketches for their abundant vitality and his exceptional talent. However, little Xie Qingyuan was in a gloomy mood. His grandfather asked him what was wrong, and he said, "What on earth do I have to paint like to turn what I want into reality?" His grandfather said, "Whatever you want, Grandpa will buy it for you." Little Xie Qingyuan shook his head. He had asked for many things before, but he had never gotten them. As he grew older, he seemed to realize that earnestly conveying his wishes to others was an extremely dangerous act. His naive thoughts, childish requests, and urgent expectations would all turn into sharp blades stabbing at himself in the face of unfulfilled wishes. After hearing his grandfather's words, I made up my mind to make up for the lack of family affection he had experienced on behalf of Xie Qingyuan's parents and take care of him as if he were a child. However, I wasn't mature either. More often than not, we took care of and supported each other amidst our squabbles. We walked a very, very long path together like this. He was a coward who was even afraid of happiness and could get hurt even when touching cotton. He was also my most precious little hedgehog, and this little hedgehog was now blatantly exposing its soft belly in front of me. He knew that I wouldn't hurt him. Never. Xie Qingyuan stood at the stairway when he saw me coming down. He said, "Accompany me, wife." The class monitor jumped out from behind me, caught in the act. Passerby A, lovers in adultery. Passerby B, a harmonious union lasting 100 years. I pulled Xie Qingyuan and covered my face as we fled. "You old rascal, I told you not to shout like that." There was another family surrounding his father. Xie Qingyuan firmly held my hand, pushed through the crowd, and amidst their surprise and whispers, placed a bouquet of flowers wrapped in drawing paper. On the drawing paper was the most satisfying family portrait that little Xie Qingyuan had ever drawn. After walking out of the hospital, Xie Qingyuan seemed to be completely relieved. We leaned against the familiar bridge cave and felt the wind blowing until the city was illuminated by the moon. He said softly, "I want to confess something." I looked at him, thinking that it was probably about how he had liked Li Yanran in his previous life and later transferred his affection to me. He took me back to school and went to the art room. He lifted a covered painting. It was a portrait of me wearing black-rimmed glasses, with thick bangs, and in the princess dress with the huge skirt that I wore at the autumn sports meeting. His gaze was softer than the moonlight. "This is the second time I painted this picture. The last time I stood in front of everyone with others and listened to their praises. I was thinking about how great it would be if the person by my side was you. Everyone would know what a well-matched couple we are, and you would know it too." I stared stupidly at this painting until Xie Qingyuan wiped away my tears. "You're the stupidest fool I've ever seen." I poked his chest and scolded him angrily. Extra story, about the things that Xie Qingyuan wouldn't confess. That day, Xie Qingyuan ran into Jian Yujing confessing her love to the birthday celebrant in the corridor of the KTV. Forgive him for just being dragged along by his friends to join in the fun, and he didn't even remember the birthday celebrant's name at all. That little girl looked so delicate and small. How could she be so bold? Xie Qingyuan thought to himself. "I'm sorry, I don't want to be in a relationship right now." Jiang Yujing blocked Nan Baiyu and wouldn't let him leave. Nan Baiyu said helplessly, "I'm really sorry, whatever you want. I can compensate you for it." Jiang Yujing looked straight into Nan Baiyu's eyes frankly and straightforwardly. "I want us to make up. I want you to stop avoiding me and distancing yourself from me for no reason. Since you don't like me, then I want us to be good friends for a lifetime. Can you do that?" Nan Baiyu averted her gaze, and there was an awkward silence in the corridor. Xie Qingyuan even started to feel sorry for her. "I won't be sad," Jiang Yujing said with her neck stuck out, looking angry. "It was you who made the promise, and it's you who can't fulfill it. You should feel sorry for yourself." Xie Qingyuan was taken aback and poked his head out to take a look at Jiang Yujing. She pouted as if she was about to cry but still said she wasn't sad. Her chin was pointed, and her neck was thin and white, dazzlingly white. "Brother Xia lost. Hurry up. Someone come up with a tough idea. I'll say it. Brother Xia should go to the girls' table and randomly pick someone to confess to." The bottle mouth turned towards him, and his train of thought was suddenly interrupted. Xie Qingyuan frowned. The others realized they had been drinking too much and started speaking without thinking, and they fell silent all of a sudden. Sorry, Brother Xia, forget it." Xie Qingyuan stood up and confirmed with them. "I lost at Truth or Dare and need to go over there and confess to someone, right?" The one who started it nodded blankly. So Xie Qingyuan walked step by step towards Jiang Yujing, thinking, "It's just because of the Truth or Dare. I can't spoil their fun. At most, I just want to get to know her a bit, or I just didn't see her eyes clearly just now, and I just want to see them clearly." With such thoughts in mind, Xie Qingyuan was able to blurt out that sentence very smoothly. Jiang Yujing looked at him in surprise. Remembering that Nan Baiyu was watching, she steeled herself and agreed to his confession. Xie Qingyuan was stunned. How could there be such a thing as getting a wife out of the blue? No, such an inexplicable thing. It was obvious at a glance that it was a Truth or Dare thing. His wife. No. Jiang Yujing even leaned in and kissed him. This time he saw clearly. Her eyes were very beautiful, her lips were soft, and she smelled nice. He only had one thought. It's a pity that the woman I'm destined to be with doesn't like me. When Xie Qingyuan was 32 years old, he discovered Jiang Yujing's star jar and secretly used the connections of his family to help her inquire about Nan Baiyu's news. The result was very surprising. Nan Baiyu was diagnosed with a hereditary cerebral arterial disease in his first year of high school. There was no possibility of curing this disease. Once it flared up, he would only have 20 to 30 years of life left. In the later stages, there would be limb incoordination, and he would even have symptoms similar to Alzheimer's disease. Remembering Nan Baiyu who suddenly fainted in the changing room on the day of the autumn sports meeting, Xie Qingyuan realized that this was the truth behind his leaving without saying goodbye. He put the information into the shredder. Rather than letting her be sad about her white moonlight ending up in such a situation, it would be better to let her think that Nan Baiyu was living a happy life, just having forgotten her. When Xie Qingyuan was 80 years old, he found that Jiang Yujing beside him had stopped breathing. He quietly took out sleeping pills from the bedside table. He only had one thought. It would be great if I could be with Jiang Yujing for another 60 years. When he opened his eyes, he actually really returned to more than 60 years ago. Xie Qingyuan was facing Li Yanran, and Jiang Yujing was looking at Nan Baiyu, but his eyes involuntarily glanced at Jiang Yujing's profile. "I've liked you for a long time, very, very long." He blurted out this sentence again, in a place where Jiang Yujing couldn't see. "Fine, we'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. Whoever doesn't go this time is a dog." However, in fact, their first encounter dates back even earlier. At the second General Assembly in the first year of high school, Jiang Yujing, as the first in the midterm exam results, needed to go on stage to share her learning experience, and Xie Qingyuan, as the one with the most disciplinary violations, needed to go on stage to make a self-criticism. Jiang Yujing held a speech script in her hand, and Xie Qingyuan held breakfast in his hand. The two of them looked at each other. She looks dull and not very smart, but she's actually the top student in the grade. He looks fierce and hard to deal with. It's better to stay away from him, but in the end, they became the two people closest to each other, had a roughly consistent life path, and even death couldn't separate them, so it's a great pity that Jiang Yujing didn't get what she wished for. Story 2. I was born into a wealthy family, but against my family's wishes, I married Shen Chen, a poor boy. In the second year of our marriage, my parents died unexpectedly. To inherit the vast fortune, Shen Chen set fire to the villa, burning me and our child alive. Later, he used my money to marry his childhood sweetheart, bought her a house and a car, and even had beautiful twin children with her. By some mercy of fate, I was reborn. This time, I heeded my parents' advice and obediently married the partner they chose for me. Shin was completely dumbfounded. I died in a massive fire. To kill me, Shin lured me to a villa in the mountains. He kicked me in the stomach when I was 4 months pregnant. The pain was as sharp as ice-cold needles piercing through me. Clutching my belly, I slowly knelt down, watching as Shin used a lighter to ignite the curtains. The fire quickly became uncontrollable, engulfing the curtains and bookshelves, and thick smoke filled the air. Just then, he confessed to me, he had tampered with my parents' car, causing the brakes to fail and sending them rolling down a hillside. Curled up on the ground, my heart ached with anger. I asked him, why, Shin? My parents treated you like their own son, why would you harm them? In a burst of rage, Shin yelled back, if they truly treated me like a son, would they secretly make a will with a lawyer, leaving all their property only to you? They were guarding against me, right? Well then, I might as well kill you all and take the money for myself. As the fire grew, I started coughing from the smoke, and blood seeped onto my white dress from between my legs. Shin. Even a beast wouldn't harm its own child. Your heart is so cruel. Shin laughed maniacally. As for the child, once I inherit the fortune, there will be plenty of women to bear my children. I don't need the one in your belly. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to tell you, Man is also pregnant with my child. Man, his childhood sweetheart. At that moment, I lay on the ground, too pained to speak. He taunted me through the flames, wearing a hat and mask. Han Tang. Go reunite with your parents below. That night, my body twisted and convulsed in agony in the fire, my screams of pain echoing through the mountains for a long time. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my senior year of college. Today was the first anniversary of my relationship with Shin. We were at a resort, celebrating with a few friends. The noisy music blared as everyone raised their glasses in high spirits. I suddenly caught my breath, staring at the familiar yet strange surroundings, stunned for a good 10 seconds, until a tipsy Shin wrapped his arm around my shoulder and said, Tang, I'm going to the restroom. I watched him stagger out the door. A minute later, Man also left. Recalling my past life, Shin had said Man was pregnant with his child. Could it be that they were already together now? I decided to follow them and see for myself. Shin and Man entered the stairwell one after the other. I quietly approached and pushed open a small door crack, and immediately, sounds of passionate kissing filled the quiet hallway. Man said sourly, did you really have to rush me out here so urgently? Aren't you afraid Han Tang will find out? Shin, brimming with arrogance, declared, what's there to fear? She's dead set on marrying no one but me now. I've got her completely wrapped around my finger, suppressing my disgust. I turned on my phone's camera. I crouched down, my hand close to the floor, and slowly slid the phone under the door to record their intense kissing. Afterwards, I gently closed the door and turned to leave. I ran to the bathroom, where I vomited several times, nearly bringing up bile. I washed my face with cold water to calm myself down. Looking at myself in the mirror, my skin was unscathed, showing no signs of burns, which stirred some excitement in me. I wasn't married to Shin yet. There was still time to change things. I immediately called my parents. Hearing their voices, I couldn't help but choke up. After composing myself, I left the bathroom and bumped into someone around the corner of the hallway. The person quickly reached out to steady me. I hurriedly apologized. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But as I looked up, I froze, tears uncontrollably streaming down my face. It was Fu Yan. I was relieved he was still alive, in a past life, as I lay dying. It was Fu Yan who had rushed into the inferno alone trying to save me, but the fire was too intense, and ultimately, he didn't make it out alive either. We perished together in the blaze. With his last breath, he regretfully whispered in my ear, Han Tang, if there is an afterlife, would you fall in love with me first? Fu Yan's voice, cool and subtle, asked, why are you crying? Realizing I had lost my composure, I quickly pulled my arm from his grasp and wiped my tears, somewhat bewildered. I asked, what are you doing here? Fu Yan looked at me for a couple of seconds, then, adjusting his glasses, said, this resort belongs to me. Isn't it normal for me to be here? I noticed several men in suits behind him, each carrying a laptop bag. I said, then you must be busy. I won't disturb you. All right, Fu Yan responded coldly and then walked past me with his group. I stood there, watching his tall figure disappear into the crowd, so detached. Why was he so different from the person I knew in my past life? When I returned to the private room, everyone was playing Truth or Dare. Shin and Man had also returned. Man casually came over and pulled me. Come on, Tang, Join us. I looked at her lips, swollen from being kissed, clenched my teeth to suppress the urge to slap her. Shinshin pulled me down next to him, his eyes full of concern. Where did you go? Why did it take you so long to come back? I was so worried. Shinshin was really good at pretending. In a past life, I was deceived by his portrayal of a devoted lover. In front of me, he was always polite and extremely gentle. He had even risked his life to save me. I had always believed his love for me was genuine and never doubted him. Someone teased Wang Man. Does your dorm have any other beautiful single girls like Han Tang? Introduce them to us too. Don't keep all your thoughts on Shinshin. Who can compare to Shinshin? Everyone else just back off. Wow, childhood friends really are different. Huh, you're already taking his side. Wang Man was causing a scene, while Shinshin just laughed. They seemed to enjoy this thrilling feeling of flirting right in front of me. During the game, when the bottle pointed at Wang Man, I asked with a smile. Man, when was your last kiss? Wang Man's face immediately turned red. With an affected tone, she said, Tang, what are you talking about? I haven't even dated anyone yet. I still have my first kiss. She glanced at Shinshin. Besides, I'm not as lucky as you to have such an outstanding boyfriend like Shinshin. Everyone around exclaimed with a wow. It turns out everyone noticed Wang Man's feelings for Shinshin. I held Wang Man's hand seriously and said, how about I let you have Shinshin? The smile on Wang Man's face froze, and she looked at me in astonishment. The bystanders were equally shocked, but the most flustered was Shinshin. He immediately hugged me guiltily. Tang, what are you talking about? I swear, you're the only one I want in my life. If I ever betray you, may lightning strike me. Seeing the cold sweat on his forehead, I suddenly laughed. I was just joking. Look how nervous you got. Being struck by lightning would be too easy on you. After a night of fun, everyone went back to their rooms, tired, having drunk a bit. My stomach was upset. After taking a shower, I called the front desk to ask for some stomach medicine. So, when the doorbell rang, I didn't think much of it and opened the door in my nightgown. Standing at the door, however, was Fu Yan. He wasn't wearing a jacket, only a black shirt with his tie not as neatly tied as before. His gaze dropping from my face to my chest, I looked down and saw my loosely fitting nightgown, almost as if it was intentionally seductive. I quickly turned and grabbed a blanket from the bed, wrapping it tightly around me. When I returned to the door, Fu Yan handed me a box of stomach medicine. I ran into the service staff in the elevator and brought it up for you. I held the medicine in my hand. Thank you. He didn't plan to stay, bidding me good night as he was leaving. I couldn't help but call his name, Fu Yan. Actually, I was supposed to marry Fu Yan, but back then I was too rebellious, hating the restrictions set by my family and the arranged marriage they pushed on me, and Fu Yan was that arranged match. I even disliked him without really getting to know him. I ignored all the kindness he showed me. Fu Yan looked at me with a meaningful expression. What is it? I suddenly remembered what he whispered in my ear in a past life. Tang. If there is a next life, how about you fall for me first? I owed him a life. This time, I wanted to make it up to him properly. Seeing me silent, Fu Yan nodded. If there's nothing else, I'll leave. Fu Yan, do you still want me? He frowned. What did you say? My palms were sweaty with nervousness as I whispered, my breath tight. Fu Yan, I don't want to break off our engagement anymore. Will you still marry me? He lowered his gaze to me for a while, as if trying to bore a hole through my face with his stare. When a response didn't come, my tightly clenched fingers gradually loosened, my heart sinking into disappointment. I forced a smile and said, never mind then, good night. But just as the door was about to close, Fu Yan suddenly reached out and held the door frame. He pushed the door open again, and my heart leaped. Fu Yan's presence was cold and imposing as he said, Han Tang, what makes you think Fu Yan, would want someone who has a boyfriend? His question caught me off guard. I had almost forgotten that, having come back to life, I hadn't broken up with Shinshin yet. But how could I tell him that Shinshin and I were no longer possible, that I was just waiting for the right moment? His icy gaze fixed on me. Why aren't you speaking? Our eyes met, the surrounding atmosphere heavy enough to suffocate. I found myself unconsciously holding my breath. I tried to speak several times but didn't know how to explain. Eventually, I just looked down, defeated. I'm sorry, Fu Yan, I'm sorry. Sorry to him in my past life, and to him now. I felt cornered under his intense scrutiny, almost desperate to close the door, but Fu Yan pushed the door open forcefully, barging in, and pinned me against the wall as he kicked the door shut. He moved closer, his voice tense. Han Tang, I've been trying so hard to forget you. Why do you have to provoke me? Last life, I risked my life for you. How are you going to torment me in this life? He was also reborn. My eyes widened in shock as I stared at him. Almost at the same time, someone knocked on my room door. Shinchen's voice came from outside. Tang Tang, are you in there? I heard some noises from your room. Are you alright? I had forgotten that Shinchen lived next door, and at that moment, I was pressed against the door by Fu Yan. Just a door away from him, Shinchen's knocking grew more urgent. Tang Tang, open the door. Fu Yan's lips pressed closer to mine, getting nearer. He pulled off the thin blanket from my shoulders, letting it fall to the floor. His palm pressed against the back of my head. Han Tang, I want you to prove to me now that you choose me, not him. With those words, he fiercely kissed me, his tongue forcing past my teeth, and I helplessly accepted. My wrists were tightly grasped by Fu Yan, held above my head. He possessed me with a resentful desire. Frantically nibbling at my earlobe and lips until a taste of blood filled my mouth, I winced in pain. Then a hurried footstep approached from the doorway. Shinchen anxiously said, I've been calling for a while and no one answered. I was worried something had happened to my girlfriend. Then the door lock clicked. As the room door was pushed open, Fu Yan swiftly draped the thin blanket over my shoulders. He pushed me forward, and I appeared at the door, panting, and Fu Yan, he hid behind the door. I saw Shinchen and a female staff member standing at the doorway, staring at me with strange looks, especially Shinchen. His gaze fell on the front of my chest. I wrapped myself in a light blanket, trying to stay calm as I explained. I was just taking a shower. Shinchen glanced at my damp hair, sighed with relief, and stammered, I thought something had happened to you. I was so scared. Tang, Tang. His speech slowed as he stared at my bitten lips, his expression changing slightly. What happened to your lips? Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Fu Yan, standing behind the door, touch his lips and then look at the blood on the back of his hand, smirking slightly. The awkward atmosphere prompted the staff to find an excuse to leave. Shinchen's eyes swept over me and peered into the room, tentatively asking, Are you alone in the room? He even thought about coming in, but I stopped him. It's getting late. I'm tired. Let's talk about this tomorrow. Good night. I coldly shut Shinchen out of the door. As soon as I turned around, Fu Yan grabbed me, pinning me against the door. He traced his fingertips over my lips, gently pinching them, and said with self-mockery, Han Tang, you've been reborn too, haven't you? Otherwise, you wouldn't have come to me. He whispered in my ear, his breath warm but his tone chillingly cold. But Han Tang, I don't need your guilt. If you seek revenge, I won't stop you. But in this life, I won't be manipulated by you again. From now on, we go our separate ways and have nothing to do with each other. In the previous life, Fu Yan had always dragged his feet on agreeing to break off our engagement. But this night, just after I returned from the resort, my mother received a call from Aunt Fu saying he had agreed to the breakup. Aunt Fu even expressed her regret over the phone, saying, I really liked Tang Tang. What a pity. I was sitting next to my mom at the time, feeling a mix of emotions. My mom gave me a sharp look and apologized to Aunt Fu. It's Han Tang who is unfortunate, not worthy of Fu Yan. After hanging up, my mom sighed, Tang Tang, I don't even know what to say to you. That Shinchen must have bewitched you to be so fixated on him. I touched the few strands of white hair at my mom's temples, content just to see her again. Mom, I'll listen to you and break up with Shinchen. My mom was stunned, confirming it twice before she could believe her ears. She happily held my hand, saying, you have to trust your mom's judgment. Shinchen is not the right one for you. I smiled bitterly. If only I had listened before, I wouldn't have ended up in such a state. But, is this really the end for me and Fu Yan? After the weekend, I returned to school. Shinchen was waiting early at the entrance of the teaching building, waiting for me to finish class. Seeing me come out, he walked over and took my bag. Tang Tang, I sent you many messages last night. Why didn't you reply? Pretending not to know, I replied, I went to sleep early. My phone was on silent. Shinchen walked with me, trying a few times to hold my hand, but I avoided it each time. Finally unable to hold back, he pulled me aside and asked, Tang Tang, did I do something wrong? Did I make you angry? You've been so cold to me lately. Almost like a different person, I looked at Shinchen's face, full of grievance, as if he was truly devastated by his love for me. His expression reminded me of our past life when, after losing money in the stock market, he would come to me looking pitiful, seeking a bailout. A sudden thought crossed my mind. He loves money, doesn't he? This time, I'll let his greed be his downfall. Shinchen, my parents don't approve of us being together, I said with a look of dejection. I've been really troubled about this lately. Shinchen immediately tensed up. What should we do? Tang Tang, I love you so much. If I can't marry you, what's the point of living? He played the victim, saying, I know I come from a small town, and your uncle and aunt think I'm not worthy of you, so, Shin-chan, you just need to show them that you can make money. I egged him on. You've been working and saving diligently these past few years and have saved up 30,000 yuan, right? I heard from a friend of my mom that there's a stock that's been doing really well recently, tripling in value in just a month. You could use that 30,000 yuan to invest in stocks and make a lot of money. Stock trading, Shin-chan hesitated, but I don't know how. What if I lose all that 30,000 yuan? I encouraged him. I'm here, aren't I? What are you worried about? I'll help you get the inside scoop. My parents said if you can afford a house, they'll agree to our marriage after graduation. Shin-chan, don't you want to marry me? I do, he said, more cunning than a monkey, agreeing eagerly. He'd rather risk losing the 30,000 yuan than lose me, his cash cow. Within just a few days, that 30,000 yuan tripled. Shin-chan came to my dorm excitedly and hugged me. Tang Tang, you really are my lucky star. You know, I now have 90,000 yuan in my account. Back in our hometown, that could be a down payment for a house. He wanted to withdraw all the money. I quickly used his greed, advising him to make money work for money. I also pretended to regret. It's a pity, though, this money is still not enough. It's so hard to save up for a house. If only we had more money. After all, the stock market's rise is limited. We need to seize the time. I hinted to him that marrying me would mean inheriting my family's wealth, making it worth his while to take a risk. Shin-chan immediately swore. Tang Tang, don't worry. I'll figure out the money issue, rest assured. I'll work hard to buy a house so we can get married. That night, as I got up to use the bathroom, I overheard Wang Man secretly taking a call. Shin-chan was asking her for money. Use your brain. Once I marry her, all her Han family's wealth will be ours. Right. From their conversation, I learned. It turns out the car accident that Shin-chan saved me from previously was prearranged by him. Wang Man had been cozying up to me since moving into the dorm, all to gain my trust and introduce me to Shin-chan. From the start, they had their eyes on my family's money. Finally, Shin-chan said, I'll send you my card number. Quickly transfer the money to me. I'll also borrow some high-interest loans, and once I make money, I'll pay you back double. I clenched my fists in anger, grinding my teeth. To live this life over, they owe me, and I will reclaim it all with interest. In the early hours, I lay in bed unable to sleep, while browsing on my phone. I saw a picture of Fu Yan on a friend's Facebook. The IP was from France. In the photo, he was standing with a beautiful woman. It appeared to be at a grand gathering. The event was splendidly decorated, with dazzling lights everywhere. I couldn't help but ask a friend about Fu Yan's recent situation. My friend teased me, saying, What, Miss Han, are you regretting calling off the engagement? Too late now though. The girl in the photo is a marriage prospect the Fu family has picked out for him. And I heard they are currently getting to know each other. He really did what he said he would, and from then on, we went our separate ways. It's for the best. A week later, a collegiate design competition was held in the province. In my past life, it was on the morning of this competition that I suddenly suffered from severe diarrhea. Wang Man took the design I had created and competed alone, winning first place but never mentioning me. Her excuse later was that she was too nervous at the time and became incoherent. Then she cried and apologized to me, but as a result, she gained fame and was immediately recruited by a top domestic design company upon graduation, transforming her life dramatically. After my tragic death, she and Shin-chan became the envy of everyone as they soared high together. This morning, however, Wang Man tried the same trick again, handing me a cup of water laced with laxatives. Tan Tan, I heard you coughing last night. Drink some water to soothe your throat. You have to give a speech on stage later. I took the water without showing any reaction and smiled. Thank you. She lingered by my bed, wanting to see me drink it. I played dumb and asked her, What are you staring at? She nervously scratched her head. Oh, nothing, just that the necklace on your neck is really pretty. I touched my necklace. Shin-chan gave it to me. Wang Man's smile became unnatural for a few seconds. I'm going to wash up. While no one was looking, I poured the water she gave me into a flower pot and deliberately placed the empty cup on the table. When she came back from washing up and saw the empty cup, she was indeed pleased. Before leaving, I pretended to have a stomach ache and let Wang Man go ahead. Wang Man feigned concern for a few moments, then hurried off as if she couldn't wait to get away, fearing I might catch up. Little did she know that on this day, which she thought marked the beginning of her glory, it would actually be the start of her and Shin-chan's descent into hell. I specifically arrived 2 minutes before I was due on stage for my speech. Wang Man, seeing me, jumped as if she had seen a ghost. her eyes instinctively dropping to my stomach. Tan, you, I calmly smiled, my stomach is fine, it's almost our turn, right? She nodded dumbly. When I took the speech manuscript from her hands, she was reluctant to let go but forced a strained smile, making it quite comical. As the host called my name, Wang Man still held out hope and asked me, Tan, are you really okay? It would be terrible if your stomach acted up on stage. Maybe I should. I cut her off. I'm fine. Under her reluctant gaze, I slowly walked onto the stage, capturing the attention of the entire audience. The design was something I had put a lot of thought into. Wang Man was merely an assistant. Had it not been for her family's poor circumstances and her sick father, I wouldn't have kindly included her in the credits, giving her an opportunity to shine. I had memorized the speech so well that I was the only contestant who spoke without a script. After the presentation, the audience applauded for me. One of the senior judges, Joan, a well-known designer in the industry and the same person who offered Wang Man an opportunity in my previous life, actively asked me, Han Tang, I really like your design, you are very talented, would you be interested in working at my company after graduation? I smiled gracefully, I would love to, I will reclaim the spotlight that Wang Man took from me. Everything was taken back. That evening, Shin Chen invited many friends and specifically booked a very expensive local restaurant to celebrate my championship victory. Ever since he started making money, he has been spending more lavishly, filling his wardrobe with brand-name clothes. Watching him give a toast at the dinner table, with his pretentious demeanor, I couldn't help but want to laugh. In his past life, he always pretended to be a frail scholar, eliciting sympathy from others. Now, he seemed like a nouveau riche, eager for the whole world to know that he was no longer poor. Proudly raising his head high. This was good. The higher he climbed, the harder he would fall. Within my mind, I calculated that in less than a month, the stock he invested in would hit continuous limit downs. By then, all his money would be trapped. Not only would he and Wang Man be left with nothing, but the high-interest loans alone would be enough to ruin him. Wang Man sat next to me, barely speaking throughout the evening. I asked her, Man, what's wrong? She hesitated and then said, Tang, when you were giving your award acceptance speech today, why didn't you mention me at all? Even though I drew the design drafts, I also contributed. Didn't you say you would credit me? I took a sip of orange juice, mimicking her demeanor from her past life, and feigned realization. Oh, Man, it's all my fault. I was too excited when I received the award, and I spoke incoherently. I'm sorry. She had no choice but to act magnanimous. It's okay, I know it wasn't intentional, but, Tang, we are about to graduate, and I still haven't found a job. Today, you accepted an invitation from Joan, a top design firm in the country where countless people are vying to get in. So, when you go, could you take me with you? I inwardly sneered. Sure, just you wait. Wang Man immediately showed a delighted expression. Thanking me profusely, Shin Chen, drunk, slung his arm around my shoulders. Singing and dancing like a crazed donkey, he said, Tang, wait until I buy a big house, we'll get married right away. Tang, you don't know how much I want to hurry up and bring you home. Tang, if our kids look like you, they'll definitely be very beautiful. Kids, I remembered the child who was 4 months old in my womb, kicked out by Shin Chen, and my heart felt as if it was being carved by a knife, amidst everyone's cheering. Shin Chen suddenly leaned in and kissed me fiercely on the face. I immediately pushed him away in disgust. Don't touch me. Shin Chen was stunned. So were the others. Wang Man stared at me incredulously, but fortunately, since Shin Chen was quite drunk and not very coherent, he thought I was just playing around and came over to hug me. Baby, are you mad that I drank? I'm sorry. I won't drink anymore. Okay. I responded with a forced smile. You guys go ahead. I'll head to the restroom. I rushed into the restroom, immediately grabbed a piece of paper, wet it, and furiously scrubbed my face in the mirror. Even though my skin turned red, I still felt disgusted. Finally, frustrated, I threw the paper at the mirror. It took me a while to calm down. When I left the restroom and was walking back to the private room, I unexpectedly saw Fu Yan coming out from another corridor. He headed towards the elevator. It had been a long time since I last saw him, and his figure seemed even more slender from behind. I watched as he and his group entered the elevator one after another. On impulse, I followed and hurriedly pressed the button for the opposite elevator. When I reached the entrance, Fu Yan was seeing someone off to their car. When his Mercedes pulled up, he declined a ride, saying, I'd like to walk. You go ahead. 17. If you're going to put on a show, do it right. I sent a WeChat message to Wang Man, telling her I had to leave early due to a family emergency and asked her to look after Shin Chen. The night streets, adorned with colorful neon lights, were dreamlike. People passed by in pairs and groups, chatting and enjoying themselves comfortably. I secretly followed behind Fu Yan, keeping a cautious distance, watching him from afar through the crowd, under the streetlight. His shadow stretched out long and looked so lonely. He stopped in front of an elderly woman sitting on the ground. Beside her sat a boy about 2 years old, in tattered clothes, with a dirty rice cracker in his mouth. Fu Yan took some money out of his wallet and gave it to her, buying all the handcrafted items made from yarn at her stall. The elderly woman was tearfully grateful, carrying the bag of crafts, which were of no use to him. Fu Yan continued walking. I hurriedly bought some food from a roadside stall. I ran up to the elderly woman, stuffed the warm food into her hands, and, patting the boy's head, said, "Little guy, make sure you take good care of your grandma when you grow up." The elderly woman kept thanking me, but when I turned around to look for Fu Yan, he had disappeared into the crowd. I panicked. It felt like losing a precious treasure as I looked around desperately. I accidentally bumped into a young couple. The girl's milk tea spilled all over me, and she quickly apologized. I shook my head. It's okay, I should be the one apologizing. It wasn't until they walked away that I dejectedly lowered my head, looking at my disheveled self. Then a hand reached out, offering me a pack of tissues. I slowly looked up, following the hand up to meet Fu Yan's cold gaze. The city's noise faded into silence at that moment, and all the clamor seemed distant. In my eyes, there was only him. I stumbled over my words, and finally diverted the topic awkwardly. What a coincidence, is it? His gaze lingered on my face, his expression indifferent, yet his eyes intense. Haven't you been following me all along? Fu Yan stuffed the tissues into my hand and turned to leave. I blurted out in desperation, "Fu Yan, I have something to tell you." 18. We found a relatively quiet place. Fu Yan stood under the streetlight, his posture as straight as a pine tree. "What is it? Speak." I told him about my parents. When they were young, my mother had someone she liked but was forced into an arranged marriage with my father due to family reasons. Their marriage was not a happy one. They argued frequently, and it was common for my father to not come home for months. As a child, I envied other kids whose parents would attend school activities on family days, but my parents were always too busy, only sending the nanny instead. Throughout my childhood, they hardly cared for me. Yet they started imposing restrictions during my most rebellious teenage years. They would lecture me with principles I could barely understand, always demanding how I should be. I rebelled against them. The more displeased they were, the more I resisted. I felt a rush of joy at the thought of my decision. In my previous life, I loved Shinshin not only because he was such a good pretender, but also because he always did as I wished. Especially when my parents found out and were strongly against us being together, I wanted to marry him even more. It was a sort of pathological revenge. Every time they argued, they would leave the house in a complete mess. I kept telling myself that I would never want to live that kind of life. So Fu Yan, my refusal to enter into an arranged marriage isn't about you. It would be the same with anyone they chose for me. I would resist. I hate them controlling me. And I'm even more afraid of ending up in a marriage like theirs, seemingly perfect but devoid of real connection. I don't want my children to grow up in such an unhealthy family environment. But because of my stubbornness, I ended up with such a fate, dragging you down with me, losing your life, for which I am truly sorry. That apology is what I owe him. Everyone has been young and reckless. I long more than anyone to start over. Fu Yan. When I asked you the other day if you would still marry me, I meant it sincerely. It wasn't just out of guilt, but also because I don't want to miss out on you again. Fu Yan remained silent the whole time, quietly listening to me. The ground around his feet was littered with cigarette butts, his brow furrowed. After a long silence, Fu Yan flicked his last cigarette butt onto the ground and stubbed it out with the tip of his shoe. He looked up at me. "Are you done?" My hands clenched the fabric of my clothes because of his indifference. His gaze was calm and undisturbed. "Han Tang, I accept your apology, but that's all. I have things to do. I must go now. Goodbye." I watched his receding figure, tears sliding down unexpectedly. But now is not the time to be sad. The time left for me is running out. I need to quickly implement my plan. On the night of Shinchen's 23rd birthday, he had booked a hotel suite and planned to propose to me. It was Wang Man who took me there. The room was romantically and warmly decorated with pink balloons and petals scattered around, creating a sweet atmosphere. In the center, there was a bouquet of carefully selected roses, their petals glittering softly under the light. Shinchen, dressed in a suit looking proper and fitting, stood in front of the roses, holding a diamond ring, and knelt on one knee. "Tang Tang, will you marry me?" Facing his expectant eyes, I slowly walked over. Amidst everyone's blessings, I swung my hand and slapped him hard. The diamond ring fell from Shinchen's hand, clattering to the floor. He held his half-turned face in disbelief, looking at me. Everyone else froze, hardly daring to breathe. My glare swept over Shin Chen and Wang Man as I demanded, "When did you two get together?" My question came out of nowhere. Shin Chen and Wang Man looked bewildered. They glanced at each other in shock before Shin Chen immediately grabbed my hand, pleading. "Tang Tang, Wang Man and I are innocent. Don't listen to the gossip. They are just jealous." Wang Man also nervously explained, "Yes, Tang Tang, we're best friends. How could I?" Before she could finish her sentence, I showed them the video on my phone. The video clearly showed them passionately kissing, which I had secretly filmed that night at the resort. Their faces turned pale as they stared at the screen on my phone. Panic was visibly in the air. Just an hour ago, someone posted a video of you two passionately kissing on the campus network. Now the whole school knows. I pretended to be heartbroken, my voice trembling. "Shin Chen, Wang Man, how could you do this to me? I trusted you so much, treated you so well. And this is how you repay me." Shin Chen tried to pull me back, but I shrugged off his hand and slapped him again. "Don't touch me." I glanced at the romantic setting in the room and said sarcastically, "Keep this marriage proposal for Wang Man, I'll give you my blessing." As I turned to leave, I dropped the facade of heartbreak and smirked coldly. Next, it would be a dog-eat-dog scenario for them. In fact, I had deliberately arranged for the kissing video to be uploaded today. Firstly, I knew about Shin Chen's plan to propose to me tonight, and I wanted to expose him and Wang Man publicly, shattering his dream. Secondly, the stock market is going to crash tomorrow, and I needed something significant to distract Shin Chen, keeping him from focusing on his stocks. By the time he realizes, his stocks will be trapped, and he will be ruined. Now, the whole school is cursing them as immoral. After tonight, they will be pointed at and talked about wherever they go, never to have a peaceful day again. It rained heavily that evening, and my other two roommates didn't come back. I didn't know what happened between Shin Chen and Wang Man. When Wang Man entered, she was drenched like a drowned rat and stormed up to me angrily. "Han Tang, you did this on purpose, didn't you? You knew I was with Shin Chen all along, didn't you?" I removed my face mask, looking at her innocently. "Why are you so angry?" Being the other woman, Wang Man, playing the victim first, accused me. "Han Tang, I never saw it coming. You always acted like a good person, but you're so cunning. Now Shin Chen has completely turned against me. Are you happy?" I smiled faintly. "Happy? This is far from enough." Only then did Wang Man realize. "So that morning of the competition, you knew I drugged your water. You pretended to give me hope, only to watch it dashed. You never planned to take me with you to work with Joan. Are you playing me?" I spoke leisurely. "Playing you? Why should I pick a day?" Enraged and embarrassed, Wang Man lunged at me like a madwoman, but I slapped her back. She covered her face, her eyes wide as saucers. "You dare hit me?" I stepped forward, grabbed her by the collar, my gaze sharp as a knife. "Hitting you is hardly satisfying, Wang Man. The show has just begun. Let's take it slow." Wang Man, being extremely prideful, couldn't handle the pointing and whispering, and soon submitted a leave of absence request to the school. Shin Chen sent me countless messages every day, skipping classes, just waiting under the girls' dorm. Seeing me, he would cry and beg for forgiveness. "Tang Tang, you have to believe me. My feelings for you are genuine." It was all Wang Man seducing me. I was forced. "Tang Tang, as long as you can forgive me, I'll do anything. Just please don't ignore me. It's killing me." Until one day, when he came to me, he was fraught with anxiety. "Tang Tang, what should we do? The money in stocks is almost gone. I've been so focused on you lately, I haven't been paying attention. What should I do? Tang Tang, can you help me? I borrowed so much from loan sharks. If I can't pay them back, they'll kill me." He even knelt down in front of me publicly, abandoning all his pride, pleading, "Tang Tang, I did it all for you. You were the one who said that stock was a sure win, and that you'd marry me once I had enough money for a house. You can't just abandon me now." I looked down at Shin Chen kneeling before me, pitiful as a dog. "But you also said, if you were ever unfaithful, you'd be struck by lightning. Yet here you are, still alive and well." It took a lot of effort to pull my hand from Shin Chen's grasp. "Shin Chen, look into your heart and ask yourself, are you really doing all this just to marry me? Or is it for the money? You brought this on yourself with your greed, and you deserve it. Don't come looking for me again. Your current state disgusts me." Seeing me about to leave, he grabbed my arm unwillingly, his words carrying a sharp edge. "Han Tang, do you really need to be so ruthless?" "Ruthless," I responded coldly. "Shin Chen, compared to what you've done to me, I've been quite merciful." As I turned to leave, Shin Chen threatened from behind. "Han Tang, even a cornered dog will jump over a wall. Don't push me." Shin Chen came looking for me a few times after that. I didn't even show him my face. I heard he got caught by the loan sharks and hasn't been seen at school for days. I don't even know if he's alive or dead." Sometime later, Wang Man suddenly drove a luxury car back to school to withdraw. Seeing her again, she seemed like a different person, dressed head to toe in designer brands. Even the bag she carried was worth tens of thousands. My roommate said, Wang Man was being kept by someone. When I was leaving the cafeteria, Wang Man blocked my path. She stood before me, arrogant and removing her sunglasses with her red-painted nails. "Long time no see, Han Tang. I came specifically to thank you. If it weren't for what you did back then, forcing me to drop out, I would never have met my husband. What's the point of sticking with Shen Chen? That poor guy. Look at my life now, living in luxury. Don't be too jealous." I looked back at her. "Wang Man, do you enjoy being the mistress?" Wang Man just laughed carelessly. "What's wrong with being a mistress? He gives me money, lets me live in a mansion, and drive a luxury car. That's good enough for me. What's the point of clinging to a marriage certificate? My husband always says he and I are true love. He just met me too late. Besides, in love, the one who isn't loved is the real third party. In my view, that plain Jane is the real intruder in our relationship." Listening to her spouting nonsense, I finally understood why the ancients said that more words lead to disagreement. Wang Man provoked me. "By the way, Han Tang, I saw that wealthy fiancé you broke off your engagement with at a banquet recently." Fu Yan, right. My heart felt like it was pricked. Her gaze sharpened, cutting towards her like the edge of a knife. Wang Man chuckled and said, "You know, he's quite handsome and successful, and I heard that he and his current fiancée have broken up. Do you think if I could win over Fu Yan, I'd really be marrying into a wealthy family?" I clenched my teeth secretly, my temples throbbing fiercely. "Stay away from him," I warned her. Wang Man raised an eyebrow, looking at me in surprise. "So, you care about him?" I tightened my grip on my hands. Before she left, Wang Man deliberately taunted me. Maybe the next time we meet, you'll have to call me Fu Yan's girlfriend." Wang Man's words echoed in my ears, disturbing my peace. I knew Fu Yan wasn't interested in her, but seeing Wang Man's crazed state last time, I feared she might do something drastic to get back at me and tarnish Fu Yan's reputation. I didn't want to drag him into this. After much hesitation, I decided to go see him. I lingered at the gate of his villa for a long time, lacking the courage to ring the doorbell. Hearing footsteps inside, I panicked and hid. Then I saw Fu Yan escorting a girl out. I recognized her immediately from a photo I had seen before. As she left, she turned to him and said, "Okay, stop here." Fu Yan, dressed in casual white attire with his hands casually tucked in his pockets, replied, "Have a safe trip." The girl, with a sweet smile, said, "Thanks for agreeing to the arranged marriage before. It gave me and Aylin time to prepare to go abroad. Otherwise, my mom would have been totally against it. When Aylin and I register our marriage abroad, you're welcome to attend." Fu Yan chuckled softly. "Sure, I wish you happiness." They hugged politely and said their goodbyes. The girl got into her car. Before driving away, she rolled down her window and said to Fu Yan, "Hey, I saw the photo of the girl you've hidden in your phone. She's beautiful and suits you well." Fu Yan, love isn't something that waits. If you truly can't let go, why not try giving each other another chance? You've got to be strong. As the car drove away, disappearing into the distance, Fu Yan turned to go inside. I called out to him, "Fu Yan." He paused and looked back, instinctively glancing in the direction the car had disappeared, seemingly judging whether I had heard their conversation. I approached him and disclosed everything about Wang Man. "I know you don't like her. I just wanted to warn you to be careful. She's ruthless, and I don't want you to get involved." Fu Yan's voice lowered as he asked, "Did you come all this way just to tell me this?" I nodded, after a long silence. He didn't speak again. I pursed my lips. "That's all. I'm leaving. Goodbye." I didn't know how far I had walked when suddenly Fu Yan called out, "Han Tang." Joy surged in my heart, and I immediately turned to look at him. His dark eyes brimmed with light, as if a handful of stardust had settled in them. "Shen Chen is being chased by debt collectors. He's a ruthless man. Be careful." Was he showing concern for me? He had been keeping an eye on me all this time. My eyes nearly welled up with tears as I smiled and said, "I know." I refused to let Wang Man act recklessly, so I paid someone to follow her and took many photos of her with a middle-aged man entering hotels and being intimate in public, then anonymously sent them to his wife. Before long, the wife caught them and pinned her down on the hotel bed. The man, looking out for himself, claimed that it was Wang Man who seduced him. As expected, that's the typical excuse of a scoundrel. But the wife wasn't someone to be trifled with. She gathered some friends, stripped Wang Man naked, and threw her into the street where passers-by took photos and videos that ended up online. She even hired someone to drive Wang Man out of town. banning her from returning. 25. After dealing with one man's situation, I started to get busy with my graduation thesis. That evening, Joan suddenly invited me out to dinner to discuss job opportunities after graduation. We had a great time talking. She had drunk a bit too much to drive. I called a ride for her and watched until her car had left. Then I took a ride back to school. After getting out of the car, I went to a supermarket and bought some yogurt. As I was walking back to school, Fu Yan suddenly appeared. He quickly put his arm around my shoulders and pulled me close, whispering, "Don't make a sound. Shen Chen is following us." I had a bad feeling about this. Fu Yan, holding me close, hurried towards the school, whispering, "Shen Chen has been following you all night. I'm worried he might hurt you." I couldn't help but remember Shen Chen's hideous expression the night he set fire to kill me in my previous life. But Fu Yan's presence now meant he was being dragged into this too. Just as I was about to tell him to leave, Shen Chen, who had been following us, suddenly called out, "Han Tang." I stopped in my tracks. That voice, that tone, it was just like that night. Shen Chen seemed intent on killing. As I turned around, I instinctively stepped in front of Fu Yan. Fearing Shen Chen would harm him, Shen Chen took off his hat and mask and threw them to the ground. He pointed at Fu Yan behind me and shouted, "You dumped me for him. Is it because he's richer and more powerful? Right, Han Tang. So you're just a vain and greedy bitch. You've ruined me. And now you're living carefree with someone else." As Shen Chen spoke, his eyes met Fu Yan's, and a fierce battle of anger ensued. Fu Yan shielded me behind him, using his tall frame as a barrier. "Shen Chen, I've already called the police. Don't do anything stupid." "Police? Ha, you think I'm scared?" Shen Chen's gaze shifted past Fu Yan, aiming directly at me. "Han Tang, Wang Man told me everything before she left. You've been setting us up from the start. You never intended to marry me. You used my desire to marry you to drive me to this point. You're playing me. You've driven me into debt, and now you want to kick me aside. There's no such thing as a free lunch. I'd rather die than let you get away with this." Sirens could be heard in the distance. The flashing red and blue lights illuminated the darkness around us and shone on Shen Chen's face. The next second, he pulled a fruit knife from his bag and, gritting his teeth, charged at us, shouting, "Han Tang, go to hell." The distance was too close. Shen Chen seemed crazed. Fu Yan and I barely had time to react. Without thinking, Fu Yan turned and embraced me, but I couldn't let him be harmed. At the moment Shen Chen lunged with his knife, I gathered all my strength and pushed Fu Yan away. Shen Chen's knife plunged into my abdomen. He grabbed my shoulders and viciously twisted the knife deeper. "Han Tang, go to die. Just die." It felt like a tremendous force was tearing inside me. It hurt. It was painful. Shen Chen was only released when a police officer shot him in the head. His blood splattered on my face. I watched as he fell backwards, his body twitching on the ground. Once he was confirmed dead, the force that had been sustaining me inside collapsed. Fu Yan rushed over, caught my falling body, and held me tightly, his eyes misting over. The alarm bells were incessant. I saw people running this way. They surrounded Shen Chen, guns pointed at him. Someone else was calling for an ambulance, and there I was, quietly lying in Fu Yan's arms, lifting my blood-stained hand to gently touch his face, smiling with acceptance. "It's good that it wasn't you, this time. Let's say I saved you, one life for another. Are we even now?" Fu Yan gripped my hand tightly, his voice strained and hoarse. "Han Tang, you owe me far more than just one life. I want you to live well, to make it up to me. Do you hear?" I vomited blood, tears flowing uncontrollably. "Fu Yan, I'm sorry. I've let you down. I truly regret it. If there really is a next life, I'll be the one to fall for you first." 26. My life was not long. My soul drifted from my body, and my past flashed before my eyes like a carousel. It turns out that the first time I met Fu Yan, it wasn't his first time seeing me. It turns out that he was the one who initiated our engagement, which is why Aunt Fu arranged to meet my mother. It turns out that on the day I married Shen Chen, Fu Yan was there, watching me from the shadows, and quietly left before the lights came on after the ceremony. It turns out he had already bought a wedding ring and threw it into a trash bin after leaving the wedding venue. It turns out he had fallen for me back when I was a freshman volunteering as a caregiver in the nursing home, so early on. It turns out I hurt him deeply. 27. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day I first met Fu Yan. The reserved man sat across from me,